And just like a soldier, I keep on moving forward, always getting closer, I'm marching till it's over. And just like a soldier, I keep on moving forward.
Hello and welcome back to MangaMuse guys. This is the third part of What If Naruto Enters Bluelock. Make sure to like, share, subscribe and also press the bell icon so that you never miss a great update. Also make sure to check out the wonderful author SpellRGN on FANFICTIONnet. Well, let's continue with the story now.
The next couple of days were a rare break for Naruto finally, a chance to relax and enjoy himself before heading off to join the Ubers. As he found himself inside the arcade. Naruto leaned against a claw machine, the familiar hum and buzz of the arcade surrounding him. His cap was pulled low over his face, hiding his identity. Despite being back in Japan for only a short time, people had started recognizing him after the news of his lone move to Ubers broke. He had come here to distract himself. The lingering thoughts of his conversation with Mikasa weighed on him, and with his flight to Europe scheduled for the next day, he needed something to take his mind off things. After spending a few minutes trying and failing to win a plushie from the claw machine, Naruto turned toward the snack bar. He wasn't hungry, but he figured grabbing a drink might help pass the time. As Naruto made his way through the crowded arcade, his crutches clicking softly against the floor, he accidentally bumped into someone. The jolt wasn't strong, but it was enough to knock the drink out of the other person's hand. "Ah, CRP," Naruto began, expecting the drink to crash to the floor. But instead of spilling, something unexpected happened. The boy Naruto had bumped into extended his foot, effortlessly stopping the falling drink. With a casual flick of his ankle, he popped the drink back into his hand, taking a sip as if nothing had happened. Naruto stared, wide-eyed. "Whoa!" The boy, who had shaggy, white hair and a perpetually lazy expression, shrugged. Didn't want it to hit the floor, would have been a waste. Naruto's eyes narrowed, still in disbelief. "You play football?" The boy shook his head lazily. "Nah. Never tried it." Naruto's mind raced. He had seen countless skilled players during his time at Real, but this was something else entirely. The boy's control, balance, and reflexes were ridiculous, natural, effortless, like it didn't even require thought. "What's your name?" Naruto asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Nagi," the boy said, taking another sip of his drink. "Nagi Saishiro." "Nagi, huh?" Naruto repeated, committing the name to memory. "You've got crazy control for someone who's never played football." Nagi shrugged again, clearly uninterested in the topic. "Just didn't want to spill my drink." Naruto smiled, shaking his head. "Well, if you ever do try football, you might be pretty good at it. Anyway, thanks for the show, Nagi. I've gotta head out." Later, Nagi said lazily, already turning back toward whatever game he had been playing. As Naruto made his way out of the arcade, he couldn't help but think about the strange encounter. Nagi Saishiro, someone with that level of natural control, could easily become a top-tier player if he ever decided to take the sport seriously. But for now, it seemed like Nagi didn't care. Still, the thought lingered in Naruto's mind as he walked through the streets of Tokyo. He had met countless players who worked tirelessly to master their skills, but Nagi had something rare, raw, effortless talent. "Maybe one day," Naruto muttered to himself with a grin, "we'll meet on the pitch." Narita International Airport, Departure Terminal. Naruto stood with his parents near the departure gate. His flight to Europe was boarding soon, and once again, it was time to say goodbye. Kushina clutched his hand tightly, though she wore a warm smile, her eyes betrayed a hint of sadness. "You sure you packed everything?" she asked for the third time. Naruto chuckled softly. "Yeah, Mom. I double-checked." "Don't worry." Beside her, Minato spoke, "Take care of yourself, Naruto," he said gently. "Don't rush the recovery. You've got time." Naruto nodded, appreciating his father's words. "I'll be careful. Promise." Kushina squeezed his hand one last time before pulling him into a tight hug. "We're proud of you, sweetheart," she whispered. "Just remember, no matter what happens, we're always here for you." Naruto hugged her back, feeling a mix of emotions: love, determination, and a touch of sadness. Leaving his family was never easy, but he knew it was necessary. He had a goal, and nothing was going to stop him from reaching it. As they pulled apart, Kushina wiped a tear from the corner of her eye, quickly replacing it with a bright smile. "Okay, go be amazing. And don't forget to call us when you land." "I will," Naruto said with a grin. "Love you guys." "Love you too," Kushina said. "Go on, Naruto," Minato added with a nod. "We'll be watching." With one final wave, Naruto turned and began making his way toward the gate. His crutches clicked softly against the tiled floor, the brace on his ankle hidden beneath his pants. Despite the injury, his steps were steady, his resolve unshaken. As Naruto approached the gate, he pulled out his boarding pass and passport, handing them to the attendant. The woman smiled politely, scanning his documents before waving him through. "Safe travels, Uzumaki-san," she said cheerfully. "Thanks," Naruto replied, tucking his documents away as he headed down the corridor toward the plane. Boarding the aircraft, he found his seat near the window. Settling in, he leaned back and exhaled slowly, letting the tension ease from his shoulders. Outside, the lights of the airport flickered against the night sky, casting a warm glow over the runway. For a moment, Naruto allowed himself to relax. He thought about everything that had happened over the past few days: his conversation with Mikasa, the encounter with Nagi, and the bittersweet moments with his family. This is it, he thought. The next chapter begins now. As the plane taxied down the runway, Naruto glanced out the window. The familiar sights of Tokyo faded into the distance as the aircraft began its ascent, climbing higher into the sky. He closed his eyes briefly, letting the steady hum of the engines lull him into a calm state. Despite the uncertainty of what lay ahead, he felt ready. Ready to face the challenges at Ubers, ready to master his new abilities, and ready to prove to himself and everyone else that he could be the best. His phone buzzed softly in his pocket. Pulling it out, he saw a message from Mikasa. "Mikasa, safe flight. Don't forget to call when you get there." Naruto smiled, quickly typing a response. "Naruto, will do. Thanks again. See you around." He hesitated for a moment before sending another message to Kaya, one of his closest friends from Real. "Naruto, heading out now. Keep an eye on things for me. I'll be back stronger." Kaya responded almost instantly. "Kaya, don't take too long, Uzumaki. We've got games to win." Naruto chuckled softly, putting his phone away as the plane continued its climb. His mind drifted to Snuffy, Ubers, and the intense training that awaited him. He didn't know exactly what to expect, but one thing was certain: he wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. As the plane leveled out high above the clouds, Naruto looked out the window once more, the endless night sky stretching before him. "I'll master my eyes," he whispered to himself. "I'll become stronger. And when I come back, I'll be ready to take my place as the best striker in the world." With that final thought, he closed his eyes, letting sleep take him as the plane continued its journey across the globe. Turin, Uber's training complex. Naruto's car pulled up to the front entrance, and he stared out the window, taking in the sight of the facility. It wasn't as massive as Real's academy, but there was something imposing about its clean, minimalistic design. As the car stopped, Naruto grabbed his crutches and stepped out carefully. His ankle, still in a brace, twinged slightly, but he ignored it. Today wasn't about the injury, it was about starting over. A staff member greeted him at the entrance. "Welcome, Uzumaki. Coach Marcelo is expecting you. Follow me." Naruto nodded, adjusting his crutches as he followed the staff member through the complex. The air smelled faintly of grass and fresh paint, and he could hear the distant sounds of players training on the pitch. Inside one of the offices, Coach Marcelo waited. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man in his late 40s, with sharp eyes that seemed to take in every detail at once. As Naruto entered, Marcelo stood, offering a firm handshake. "Uzumaki, welcome to Ubers," Marcelo said, his voice calm but authoritative. I've heard a lot about you. Thanks, coach, Naruto replied, meeting his gaze with confidence. Marcelo gestured for him to sit. Before we begin, I want to be clear, this isn't going to be easy. You're coming in off an injury, and our system is one of the most demanding in youth football. But if you're willing to put in the work, you'll get stronger here. I'm ready, Naruto said without hesitation. I want to learn. I want to get better. Marcelo studied him for a moment, then nodded approvingly. Good. That's what I like to hear. He picked up a tablet from his desk and tapped a few times. There's someone I want you to meet. He's been with Ubers for a while now, and he's a key part of our system. You'll be working closely with him as you get used to our style. Naruto raised an eyebrow, curious. Who is it? Marcelo smiled faintly. Come with me. They walked through the training facility, eventually stepping out onto one of the smaller pitches. A group of players was gathered around, running drills with a level of precision Naruto hadn't seen before. At the center of it all was a tall figure with blonde, wavy hair and an air of quiet confidence. So, you're Uzumaki, Snuffy said, his voice low but commanding. Marcelo's been talking about you. Yeah, Naruto said, meeting Snuffy's gaze evenly. I'm here to learn. Snuffy tilted his head slightly, studying Naruto as if trying to gauge something. After a moment, he nodded. Good. You'll need that attitude if you want to survive here. Marcelo stepped forward. Snuffy, I want you to introduce Naruto to someone. He'll need to understand what makes Ubers different from other teams. Snuffy smirked slightly, glancing back toward the pitch. Sure, follow me. Snuffy led Naruto across the pitch, where a tall, lanky figure was juggling a ball effortlessly with his feet. The player's free-flowing black hair with purple-dyed tips swayed as he moved, and his striking purple eyes gleamed with sharp intelligence. His messy appearance contrasted with the precision of his movements. As Naruto got closer, he noticed something unusual. The player's teeth gleamed golden, giving him an almost menacing aura. Despite his relaxed demeanor, there was something about him that radiated confidence and control. Lorenzo, Snuffy called out. The player stopped juggling, catching the ball under his foot in one smooth motion before turning toward them. His purple eyes flicked to Naruto, scanning him briefly before he gave a lazy grin. So, this is the new guy? Don Lorenzo said, his voice smooth and laid back. Didn't expect you to be limping in on crutches. Naruto smirked, unfazed by the comment. I won't be limping for long. Lorenzo's grin widened, and he walked over, offering a hand. Naruto shook it firmly, noticing the relaxed but controlled strength in Lorenzo's grip. Don Lorenzo, he said. Center back. I'm the guy who makes sure nothing gets through. Nice to meet you, Naruto replied. Naruto Uzumaki. Snuffy crossed his arms, his expression serious. Lorenzo is the heart of our defense. He's not just a defender, he's a strategist. He reads the game better than anyone and controls the flow of play from the back. Lorenzo shrugged, still grinning. It's all about timing. You can't just react, you have to know what's going to happen before it does. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly, intrigued. This was exactly what he needed to learn. Lorenzo's ability to anticipate and control the game was something he could study, something that could help him master his Emperor's Eye. Marcelo chimed in. You'll be working with Lorenzo and Snuffy during your time here. Learn from them. Uber's system is built on precision and control, and if you want to succeed, you'll need to adapt. Naruto nodded, his resolve firm. Got it. I'm ready. Lorenzo's grin didn't fade. Good. Let's see if you can keep up. Uber's training complex, recovery complete. Naruto made his way toward the training pitch, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. His crutches were gone, and though his ankle was still wrapped for support, the brace had been removed. After a thorough evaluation from the medical staff, he had been cleared to begin light training. He wasn't just relieved, he was excited. This was his chance to finally get back on the pitch and prove himself. Standing by the sidelines, Snuffy and Lorenzo watched him approach. Snuffy, ever calm and composed, gave Naruto a nod of approval. Lorenzo, however, had that same lazy grin, his golden teeth gleaming in the sunlight. "You ready, Uzumaki?" Snuffy asked, his tone neutral but expectant. Naruto stopped a few feet away, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Yeah. I'm ready." "Good," Snuffy said, folding his arms. "Today, we're not focusing on physical conditioning, that'll come later. Right now, I want to see how you think, how you react." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Snuffy gestured toward Lorenzo. "Lorenzo's going to show you something. Your job is simple, stop him." Lorenzo rolled his shoulders lazily, stepping forward with the ball at his feet. "Hope you're ready, Uzumaki. This won't be easy." Naruto nodded, already shifting into a defensive stance. He had heard about Lorenzo's reputation. The guy wasn't just a brilliant defender, he was also known for his unconventional dribbling style, something people called zombie dribbling. Lorenzo started slow, rolling the ball forward with a lazy touch. But as he moved, Naruto immediately noticed something strange. His upper body and lower body didn't move in sync. Lorenzo's shoulders swayed one way while his legs moved another, making it nearly impossible to predict his next move. He advanced toward Naruto, his movements erratic and disjointed. One moment it looked like he was leaning left, but his legs pushed him right. The next, his body tilted forward, but his feet dragged the ball backward in a fluid motion. Most defenders would be completely thrown off by the lack of coordination, unable to read Lorenzo's center of gravity or anticipate his dribble. But Naruto wasn't like most people. Naruto's eyes narrowed, focusing intently on Lorenzo. He didn't bother trying to follow the erratic movements of Lorenzo's upper or lower body. Instead, he honed in on one key detail: the ball. His vision sharpened, and the world around him seemed to slow slightly. Focus on the ball, ignore everything else. As Lorenzo continued his confusing dribble, Naruto's mind worked quickly, analyzing every subtle shift in the ball's position. He didn't react too early or commit to one side. He waited, like a hawk stalking its prey. Lorenzo grinned as he noticed Naruto wasn't biting on any of his feints. "Oh. Not bad, Uzumaki. But let's see how long you can keep up." He added more flair to his dribbling, twisting his body unnaturally and moving with unpredictable speed. But Naruto stayed locked in, his emperor's eye guiding him, waiting for the perfect moment. And then it came. Lorenzo shifted his weight slightly, just enough to push the ball forward for his next move. In that split second, Naruto saw the opportunity. Without hesitation, he lunged forward, his foot connecting cleanly with the ball and knocking it away from Lorenzo. Lorenzo stumbled slightly, caught off guard by how precisely Naruto had timed his tackle. Before he could recover, Naruto had already taken control of the ball, standing tall with a look of quiet dominance. Snuffy, watching from the sidelines, raised an eyebrow in surprise, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Lorenzo straightened up, his grin wider than before. His purple eyes gleamed with excitement as he looked at Naruto. "Oh, Uzumaki, you're strong. Real strong." Naruto didn't respond immediately. He stood there, holding the ball, his breathing steady and his expression unreadable. But something about the way he carried himself had changed. There was an air of authority, of control. It wasn't arrogance, it was dominance. Snuffy stepped forward, clapping his hands slowly. "Looks like we've got a real monster on our hands." Naruto finally broke his silence, glancing at Lorenzo with a small smirk. "Your dribbling's weird, but it won't work if you can't control the ball." Lorenzo chuckled, rubbing the back of his head. "Man, you're scary when you get serious." Snuffy approached, his expression thoughtful. "Good. Very good. You didn't let his movements distract you, and you waited for the right moment to act. That's what we want here at Uber's: precision, patience, and control." Naruto handed the ball back to Lorenzo, still feeling the adrenaline from the exchange. "So, what's next?" Snuffy grinned. "Next, we work on integrating you into the team. Ubers doesn't rely on individual brilliance, it's about how well you can read the game and work within the system. Keep up what you showed today, and you'll fit in just fine. As the session ended, Naruto walked off the pitch, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. He knew he still had a long way to go, but today had been a good start. Lorenzo caught up with him as they headed back toward the lockers. "Hey, Uzumaki." Naruto glanced over. "Yeah? That thing you did with your eyes," Lorenzo said, his grin turning slightly creepy. "It was like you were watching me the whole time, waiting for the perfect moment. That's not normal. What's up with that?" Naruto shrugged. "Just something I've been working on. I still need to master it." Lorenzo's grin widened. "Interesting. Can't wait to see more of that in action." The sun was beginning to set over the Uber's training complex, casting long shadows across the pitch. Naruto had just finished his first session with Snuffy and Lorenzo, and though his ankle ached slightly from the exertion, he felt satisfied. He had managed to hold his own, impressing both Snuffy and Lorenzo, a solid start to his time at Uber's. As he walked toward the exit, something caught his attention. Near the edge of the pitch, a figure with a camera was moving around, taking shots of the facility. The girl had long, pinkish hair that swayed slightly in the breeze, and Naruto's eyes widened in recognition. "Is that? No way." A mischievous grin crept onto his face as an idea formed in his mind. Adjusting his pace, he quietly approached the girl, doing his best to stay out of her line of sight. When he was close enough, he suddenly shouted, "OMG, it's Funeral Parlor in the flesh. Wow, I'm such a big fan." The girl spun around quickly, startled, clutching her camera tightly as her wide eyes met Naruto's grinning face. Seeing her reaction, Naruto burst out laughing. "Gotcha," he said, still chuckling. "Man, you should have seen your face." Inori Yuzuriha, the up-and-coming reporter behind Funeral Parlor, exhaled slowly, shaking her head. "Don't ever do that again," she said, glaring at him, though there was a hint of amusement in her eyes. Naruto raised his hands in mock surrender. "Sorry, couldn't help myself. You were too focused, I had to." Inori adjusted her camera strap, her expression softening. "Well, it's nice to finally meet you in person, Uzumaki. Been keeping an eye on your journey for a while." "Same here," Naruto said, offering a genuine smile. "Didn't expect to run into you this soon, though. You're quite the reporter, huh?" "I do my best," Inori replied modestly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "There's always something new to cover, especially with a club like Uber's. Snuffy and his tactics make for interesting stories." "Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about Snuffy," Naruto said, glancing back toward the pitch. "It's intense here, but I'm getting used to it." Inori's eyes gleamed with curiosity. "So, how are you finding Uber's so far?" Naruto shrugged, his grin returning. "Fine so far. It's different from Real, way more focused on tactics and discipline. But that's what I need right now." Inori nodded thoughtfully, lowering her camera slightly. "Sounds like you're settling in well. People were curious how you'd adapt, especially after your injury." Naruto's expression turned more serious for a moment. "Yeah, that injury, it sucked. But I'm back now, and I'm not wasting any time." Inori smiled faintly. "Good attitude. You've got a lot of eyes on you, you know. People want to see if you can live up to the hype." Naruto chuckled, rubbing the back of his head. "Yeah, no pressure, right?" The two shared a brief laugh, the tension easing slightly. Inori raised her camera, pointing it toward Naruto. "Mind if I take a quick shot? You know, for the next article." Naruto struck a playful pose, giving her a thumbs up with a wide grin. "Go ahead. Make sure you get my good side." Inori rolled her eyes but smiled as she snapped the picture. "Thanks. And hey, if you ever want to give me an exclusive interview, let me know." "Deal," Naruto said. "But only if you don't scare so easily next time." Inori smirked. "Fair enough. After a few more minutes of casual conversation, Inori glanced at her phone, checking the time. I should probably head out. Got a deadline to meet. Yeah, and I've got some recovery to do, Naruto said, adjusting his bag. It was cool meeting you, though. Likewise, Inori replied. Good luck, Uzumaki. I'll be keeping an eye on your progress. Naruto grinned. I'll make sure to give you something good to write about. With that, Inori turned and walked away, her camera swinging gently by her side. Naruto watched her go for a moment before heading back toward the locker room. Meeting Inori had been a surprise, but a welcome one. She wasn't just a reporter, she was sharp, observant, and genuinely interested in the game. As he walked, Naruto's mind drifted to the days ahead. He still had a lot to prove, both to himself and to everyone watching. But for now, he felt a little more grounded, knowing that people like Inori were paying attention not just to the hype, but to the journey. Morning, Uber's training complex. Today's agenda for Naruto was crucial, a practice match designed to integrate him into the Uber's youth team. Naruto stood on the pitch, stretching lightly as he glanced around. The team was gathered, and the intensity in the air was palpable. They had been training together for a while, and Naruto was the new piece trying to fit in. Snuffy, though not playing, was present on the sidelines, his sharp eyes watching everything closely. Beside him stood Coach Marcelo, clipboard in hand, occasionally jotting down notes. All right, team, Marcelo called out, gathering everyone's attention. Today's match is about control, precision, and execution. Remember, we don't play for individual glory, we play to dominate as a unit. Stick to the system, and don't break formation. Naruto nodded, mentally preparing himself. He knew that Ubers didn't rely on flashy moves or individual brilliance. It was about reading the game, anticipating movements, and acting as one cohesive unit. Standing beside him was Don Lorenzo, his purple eyes gleaming with lazy amusement. His free-flowing black hair with purple-tipped strands swayed slightly in the wind, and his trademark golden teeth caught the sunlight whenever he grinned. You ready for this, Uzumaki? Lorenzo asked, casually juggling the ball with his foot. Always, Naruto replied, tightening his laces. You? Lorenzo smirked. I'm always ready. The whistle blew, and the match kicked off. Uber's youth team moved with remarkable precision, their passes crisp and calculated. Every player knew their role, and the formation shifted seamlessly depending on the situation. Naruto, playing as a central attacking midfielder, quickly realized just how different this style was from what he had been used to at Real. There was no room for improvisation, every move needed to be deliberate, every pass serving a purpose. In the opening minutes, Naruto found himself struggling to adapt. The pace wasn't overwhelmingly fast, but the constant shifting of positions and quick changes in formation made it hard for him to find his rhythm. Twice, he received the ball but hesitated for a split second, only to have an opposing defender close him down and force a turnover. Stick to the system, Uzumaki. Marcelo called from the sidelines. You're thinking too much. Trust your instincts, but follow the flow. Naruto gritted his teeth, frustrated but determined. He wasn't used to this level of tactical rigidity, but he knew he had to adjust. He couldn't afford to keep hesitating. Meanwhile, Lorenzo was dominating on defense. His zombie dribbling came into play whenever he intercepted the ball, allowing him to confuse and glide past opponents effortlessly before launching precise passes forward. Watching from the sidelines, Snuffy leaned slightly toward Marcelo. Lorenzo's as solid as ever, he said quietly. But Uzumaki's still trying to find his place. Marcelo nodded. He's got potential, but he needs to learn how to read the game faster. About 15 minutes into the match, Naruto finally began to find his rhythm. He stopped trying to play his usual style and instead focused on reading the movements of his teammates. He remembered Snuffy's words about control and anticipation. This wasn't about reacting to the present, it was about predicting the future. His emperor's eye flickered slightly as he scanned the pitch, focusing on the flow of the game. He noticed a subtle gap forming in the opposing team's defensive line, and without hesitating, he called out to Lorenzo. Lorenzo, left flank. Lorenzo, who had just intercepted a pass, immediately shifted his position and sent a perfectly weighted ball down the left wing. Naruto sprinted forward, timing his run perfectly to receive the pass just outside the box. One of the defenders closed in quickly, but Naruto didn't panic. He used a simple feint, shifting his weight slightly before cutting inside. The defender bit on the fake, giving Naruto enough space to line up a shot. With a quick glance, he saw the goalkeeper slightly off his line. Trusting his instincts, Naruto struck the ball with the outside of his foot a trivela, curving it around the keeper and into the back of the net. The whistle blew, signaling a goal. Marcelo jotted down notes, a satisfied look on his face. He's adapting. That's what we needed to see. Snuffy, watching with interest, gave a faint smile. He's starting to see the game. As Naruto jogged back toward midfield, Lorenzo caught up to him, a wide grin on his face. Not bad, Uzumaki, Lorenzo said, clapping him on the back. That eye of yours, it's sharp. Real sharp. Naruto smirked, breathing heavily. Thanks. You weren't too bad yourself. Lorenzo chuckled. Let's keep it up. We might actually crush these guys. For the remainder of the match, Naruto continued to integrate into the team. He made fewer mistakes, his passes becoming more precise, and his ability to read the game improving with every minute. Though he still had a lot to learn, he was beginning to understand how Ubers operated. By the time the match ended, the youth team had secured a 3-1 victory, with Naruto playing a key role in 2 of the goals. The youth team gathered around Coach Marcelo and Snuffy near the sidelines after the practice match. Naruto stood tall, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. He had adapted well during the match, making key plays and contributing to their win. Yet, something still gnawed at him. He hadn't been able to play where he truly belonged. Snuffy stepped forward, his sharp eyes scanning the group before settling on Naruto. You did well today, Uzumaki, Snuffy began, his voice steady but with a hint of something more. You showed you can adapt, read the game, and make things happen from the midfield. Naruto nodded, waiting for what Snuffy would say next. But midfield isn't where you belong, Snuffy continued, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Starting from the next game, you'll be playing as a striker. Naruto's eyes widened slightly before a grin spread across his face. He could feel a surge of excitement building in his chest. Finally. As a striker, you'll still need to play within our system, Snuffy added, his tone turning serious. This isn't about solo heroics, it's about knowing when to attack, when to pass, and when to finish. If you think you can handle that, show us. Naruto clenched his fists, his grin unwavering. I'll show everyone, just watch. Marcelo jotted down a few notes on his clipboard before addressing the team. We've got a match coming up in a few days against Monza FC's youth team. They're strong, disciplined, and aggressive. This will be a real test of how well we can execute as a unit. The players exchanged glances, feeling the weight of the upcoming challenge. Snuffy turned back to Naruto. This is your chance, Uzumaki. You've been itching to prove yourself as a striker, right? Well, now's your shot. Don't waste it. Naruto gave a determined nod. I won't. As the team broke off to cool down, Lorenzo walked up to Naruto, his usual lazy grin plastered on his face. Striker, huh? Lorenzo said, his purple eyes gleaming with amusement. Guess they finally figured out where you're meant to be. About time, Naruto replied, stretching his legs. Midfield was fine, but being a striker, that's where I can really show what I'm made of. Lorenzo chuckled, his golden teeth flashing briefly. You better back up that big talk, Uzumaki. Monza is no joke. They'll be all over you the second you touch the ball. Naruto's grin didn't falter. Let them come. I'll show them what happens when they underestimate me. Lorenzo gave a mock clap. Ooh, big words. I like it. Just don't get crushed out there. Naruto laughed, feeling more confident than ever. I won't. Besides, I've got you backing me up, right? Of course, Lorenzo said lazily. I'll clean up whatever mess you make. From the sidelines, Snuffy watched the interaction between Naruto and Lorenzo with keen interest. He turned to Marcelo, his expression thoughtful. Uzumaki's got the fire, Snuffy said. But what's interesting is how quickly he's earning Lorenzo's respect. Marcelo nodded. Lorenzo doesn't trust easily, but once someone proves they can keep up, he'll follow them. If Uzumaki keeps this up, he might become more than just a player here, he could become a leader. Snuffy crossed his arms, his eyes narrowing slightly as he continued to watch Naruto. He's got the potential. Now it's just a matter of whether he can handle the pressure. Morning briefing, Uber's training complex. The day after Naruto was officially designated as a striker, he sat in the team's video analysis room alongside the rest of the Uber's youth team. The room was dimly lit, and the large screen at the front displayed a tactical breakdown of their upcoming opponent. Monza FC's youth team, one of Italy's most disciplined and aggressive squads. Coach Marcelo stood at the front, pointer in hand, as he detailed Monza's style of play. The players listened intently, but Naruto was especially focused. This wasn't just a match, it was his debut as Uber's primary striker, the role he had always dreamed of. Monza plays a 4-3-3 formation, with their strength concentrated in their midfield and defensive lines, Marcelo explained. Their center-back pairing, Rossi and Ferrari, is one of the toughest in the youth circuit. They're strong, aggressive, and excellent at closing down space. The screen shifted to highlight Monza's defensive stats and player footage. Rossi was a towering defender with a knack for winning aerial duels, while Ferrari was quicker, known for his ability to intercept passes and shut down counterattacks. Marcelo continued, if you want to break through their defense, you'll need to exploit their lack of pace on the flanks and take advantage of their tendency to commit too many players forward during attacks. Snuffy, who was sitting to the side with his arms crossed, spoke up. Naruto. Naruto looked up, meeting Snuffy's sharp gaze. You're the striker now, Snuffy said, his voice calm but firm. Your job isn't just to score, it's to create opportunities for your teammates, disrupt their defensive rhythm, and force mistakes. Can you handle that? Naruto nodded confidently. I can. After the briefing, Marcelo pulled Naruto aside for a one-on-one session on the pitch. The sun was bright overhead as Marcelo placed a series of cones, markers, and mannequins across the training ground. This is where we fine-tune your movements, Marcelo said, gesturing for Naruto to join him. As a striker, positioning is everything. It's not just about where you are, it's about where you're going to be. Marcelo pointed toward a mannequin placed in the center of the box. Imagine this is Ferrari, their quickest defender. He's aggressive, always looking to intercept. You need to anticipate his movement and position yourself accordingly. Naruto nodded, stepping into the drill. He practiced making sharp, diagonal runs, feinting one way before cutting the other. Marcelo barked instructions, correcting Naruto's angles and timing. Don't sprint too early, Marcelo warned. You'll give the defender time to react. Wait for the ball to be in motion, then make your move. Once Naruto had nailed his positioning, Marcelo moved on to shooting drills. A staff member fed balls into the box, and Naruto practiced a variety of finishes, volleys, headers, first-time strikes, and his signature trivela. Monza's keeper, Donati, is quick on his feet but struggles with long shots and tight angles, Marcelo explained. You'll need to test him early and keep him guessing. Naruto focused intently, replaying the words in his mind as he struck ball after ball. His shots curved and dipped, many finding the back of the net. But when one shot sailed wide, he clenched his fists, frustration creeping in. Relax, Marcelo said. Mistakes are part of the process. Focus on your form, not the result. Naruto exhaled, calming himself before lining up the next shot. This time, he struck it perfectly, his golden trivela curling into the top corner. Marcelo nodded approvingly. That's the one. Keep that up. Later in the day, Naruto joined Lorenzo in the video room for an in-depth analysis of Monza's defensive pair. Lorenzo leaned back in his chair, his usual lazy grin on his face, while Naruto leaned forward, his focus razor-sharp. "Rossi's big and strong, but he's slow on the turn," Lorenzo said, pointing at the screen. "If you drag him out of position, he'll struggle to recover." "And Ferrari?" Naruto asked. "Quicker, but impatient," Lorenzo replied. "He'll commit too early if you bait him. That's where you can punish him." Naruto nodded, taking mental notes. "Got it." Lorenzo smirked. "You're taking this seriously, huh?" "Of course," Naruto said. "I'm not just here to play, I'm here to win." Lorenzo chuckled. "Good. Just remember, if you mess up, I'll be there to clean it up. But don't make it a habit, okay?" Naruto laughed. "Deal." To prepare Naruto for the real thing, Marcelo organized a simulated match during the final training session. Naruto's team played against a squad of reserves set up to mimic Monza's style. Rossi and Ferrari's roles were played by two of Uber's toughest defenders, who gave Naruto no space or time on the ball. The session was intense. Naruto found himself struggling at first, with the defenders constantly closing him down. But as the session progressed, he began to adapt. Using his Emperor's Eye, he started to anticipate the defenders' movements. When one of them leaned slightly to his left, Naruto cut right, slipping past him. When the other pressed forward, Naruto feinted backward before darting into open space. By the end of the session, Naruto had scored twice, one goal coming from a perfectly timed trivela and the other from a clever run that left the defenders flat-footed. As the players cooled down, Snuffy approached Naruto, his expression unreadable. "You're starting to get it," Snuffy said. "But don't get comfortable. Monza's defense won't make it this easy for you." "I know," Naruto said, wiping sweat from his brow. "But I'll be ready." Snuffy smirked faintly. "We'll see." Naruto sat on his bed in the dormitory, his body tired from the intense training session but his mind sharp and focused. The upcoming match against Monza FC's youth team was all he could think about. He knew this was his chance to prove himself as Uber's striker. The pressure was mounting, but Naruto welcomed it. As he scrolled through his phone to unwind, a familiar name caught his eye: Funeral Parlor. Naruto tapped on the account, and sure enough, the latest post was all about him. A photo of him during training filled the screen, accompanied by Inori Yuzuriha's signature sharp analysis. Naruto Uzumaki, a rising star's new chapter at Uber's. After weeks of recovery and adjustment, Naruto Uzumaki has officially been given the role of striker for Uber's youth team. Known for his fiery determination and natural talent, Naruto now faces the challenge of integrating into one of the most tactically disciplined systems in Europe. Will he adapt and thrive under Snuffy's watchful eye? Sources within the team suggest that Naruto's sharp instincts and newfound focus are already making waves. His ability to read the game, an edge that some say sets him apart, could be the key to breaking through Monza FC's ironclad defense in the upcoming match. Stay tuned for more updates on Japan's rising prodigy as he takes his next big step in Europe. Naruto stared at the post, a small grin forming on his face. Inori's words were flattering, but they also carried weight. She wasn't just hyping him up, she was setting expectations. He could feel the invisible eyes of fans and critics alike watching him, waiting to see if he could deliver. Sharp instincts, huh? Naruto muttered to himself, leaning back against the wall. Guess I can't let her down now. The post quickly gained traction among football fans, particularly those who had followed Naruto's journey since his Real Academy days. Comments flooded in from all over. Rising Naruto fan, Uzumaki's got the fire. Can't wait to see him destroy Monza. Hidden Leaf 21, Monza's defense is no joke. This will be a real test for Naruto. Hope he's ready. Japanese footy fan, love seeing Japanese players thriving in Europe. Go, Naruto. Even though Naruto rarely paid attention to online chatter, the excitement buzzing around him felt almost tangible. He knew that Inori's posts were helping to build his narrative not just as a player recovering from injury, but as a potential future star. Back at her hotel room, Inori sat at her desk, reviewing footage she had captured earlier that day. The clips of Naruto during training were impressive, his sharp movements, precise strikes, and the occasional flash of that intense, hawk-like gaze. She smirked as she uploaded a new story to her Instagram. Tomorrow's match will be Uzumaki's first test as Uber's striker. Can't wait to see how he handles the pressure. Hashtag Naruto Uzumaki, hashtag Uber's youth, hashtag Monza vs Ubers. Satisfied, she leaned back in her chair, scrolling through the comments on her earlier post. The buzz surrounding Naruto was growing, and she knew she had played a part in that. Better not let me down, Uzumaki, she muttered to herself with a small smile. As Naruto entered the training complex the following morning, he noticed several of his teammates scrolling through their phones, whispering to one another. He caught snippets of their conversation. Funeral parlor's post about Uzumaki. Said he's the key to breaking Monza's defense. Didn't know he was already getting this much attention. Naruto shook his head with a quiet chuckle, grabbing a water bottle and joining the group for warm-ups. Lorenzo walked up beside him. You're popular these days, Lorenzo said, his grin wide. Guess all that hype means you're the real deal, huh? Something like that, Naruto replied, stretching his legs. I'm just focused on the match. Lorenzo's eyes gleamed with mischief. Well, you better back it up. Wouldn't want to disappoint your new fan club. Naruto smirked. Don't worry. I've got this. As the players prepared for the match, Inori uploaded one final update. Match day, Monza FC Youth vs Uber's Youth. All eyes are on Naruto Uzumaki as he makes his debut as a striker. Will he rise to the occasion or crumble under the pressure? Kickoff in 2 hours. Let's see what Japan's rising prodigy can do. Sitting in the locker room before the match, Naruto scrolled through Inori's post one last time. He didn't feel nervous, instead, he felt a surge of energy, a burning desire to prove himself. She's building my story, Naruto thought to himself. Guess it's up to me to make it a good one. Naruto sat quietly at his locker, his kit neatly folded in front of him. The shirt with its black and white stripes bore the number 7 and the name Uzumaki stitched across the back. It was a number with weight, a number for players who wanted to stand out, to lead, to dominate. As Naruto reached for his boots, he noticed faint scuff marks on the leather and a slight fraying along the seams. They had been with him through countless training sessions and matches, but now they were showing their age. Guess I'll need a new pair soon, he thought, slipping them on and tying the laces tightly. But today wasn't about aesthetics, it was about performance. These boots had brought him this far, and they'd carry him through one more battle. Naruto pulled on his shirt, the fabric snug but comfortable. He took a moment to adjust the collar, letting the weight of the number on his back sink in. He stood, his boots tapping lightly against the floor as he stretched his legs. Closing his eyes, Naruto exhaled slowly, feeling a familiar shift within him. It wasn't just adrenaline, it was something deeper. It was his ego. This is my stage, Naruto thought. This is where I become the emperor. When he opened his eyes, there was a glint of sharp determination in them. His posture straightened, his movements more deliberate. The confident smirk that crossed his face wasn't one of arrogance, it was a reflection of his unshakable belief in himself. Across the room, Lorenzo leaned casually against the wall, his lanky frame relaxed as he laced up his boots. His purple-tipped hair swayed slightly as he moved, and his golden teeth gleamed when he smirked. He had earned a reputation within Ubers as the ace-eater, a center-back who thrived on shutting down the opposition's biggest threats. As Lorenzo glanced at Naruto, his lazy grin widened. Looking sharp, Uzumaki. Ready to show Monza what you've got? Naruto glanced over, meeting Lorenzo's gaze with a smirk of his own. I'm ready. Just make sure you're cleaning up at the back. Lorenzo chuckled, standing upright and cracking his neck. Don't worry about me. Just focus on scoring. If their so-called ace gets past me, then I wasn't doing my job. Good, Naruto said, slipping on his captain's armband. Because I'm counting on you to shut them down. Lorenzo's grin turned slightly predatory. Oh, I'll shut them down, all right. By the time this match is over, their so-called ace won't even want to touch the ball. Coach Marcelo entered the room, his clipboard tucked under his arm. The players immediately quieted, turning their attention to him. His sharp eyes scanned the room, lingering on each player for a moment before he began to speak. "Listen up," Marcelo said, his tone calm but commanding. "Monza is a disciplined team. They'll press hard, they'll crowd the midfield, and they'll try to break us down mentally. But remember this: we are Ubers. We don't panic. We don't break formation. We dominate with precision." His eyes locked onto Naruto. "Uzumaki, you're our man today. You're the spearhead of our attack. I want you to lead by example. Stay sharp, stay focused, and when the opportunity comes, finish without hesitation." Naruto nodded, his jaw tightening. "Got it, coach." Marcelo turned to Lorenzo next. "Lorenzo, their striker, Di Luca, is fast, but he's impatient. You know what to do." Lorenzo gave a lazy salute. "I'll make sure he knows who's boss." Marcelo smirked faintly before addressing the rest of the team. "All right, gentlemen. Let's show Monza what happens when they step onto our pitch. Play smart, play together, and don't let up until the final whistle." As the team filed into the tunnel, Naruto took his place at the front. The sound of their cleats echoing against the concrete wall sent a thrill through him. Ahead, the Monza players stood in their bright red kits, their faces calm but focused. Naruto's eyes scanned the group, landing on Di Luca, Monza's striker. The boy was tall and lean, with sharp features and an air of confidence. Di Luca glanced at Naruto, smirking slightly as if to say, "You're not ready for this." Naruto's smirk widened. "We'll see." Behind him, Lorenzo's low voice broke the tension. "You're already looking at your next victim, huh?" "Of course," Naruto replied without turning around. "That's what a striker does." The teams emerged onto the field, greeted by the cheers of the small but passionate crowd. The black and white stripes of Ubers stood in stark contrast to the bold red of Monza. Naruto could feel the energy of the spectators, the weight of their expectations pressing against him. But it didn't feel heavy, it felt exhilarating. He jogged to his position, adjusting his armband one last time. The referee blew his whistle, signaling the teams to take their places. As Naruto glanced back, he caught Snuffy's watchful gaze from the sidelines. Snuffy gave a subtle nod, his expression unreadable but intense. Naruto returned his focus to the pitch, his heart pounding with anticipation. The whistle blew, and the match began with Monza FC taking the first touch. Their midfield quickly set to work, passing the ball with precision as they tried to gain control early. Ubers maintained their compact defensive shape, forcing Monza to move the ball laterally, probing for a gap. Naruto stood at the front of the Ubers' attack, his eyes locked onto the play unfolding ahead of him. His movements were measured, his breathing steady. This wasn't just a game, it was his stage, and the audience was watching closely. For the first 10 minutes, Monza dictated the tempo, their midfield trio pulling the strings. Their striker, Di Luca, made several probing runs, testing Uber's defensive line, but each time, Lorenzo was there to shut him down. "Not today," Lorenzo muttered, intercepting a pass intended for Di Luca and launching a long ball forward. Naruto watched the ball soar, calculating its trajectory. He darted forward, his speed catching Monza's defenders off guard. As the ball dropped, he controlled it smoothly with his chest and turned toward goal. But before he could make his next move, Monza's towering center-back, Rossi, closed him down, forcing him to play the ball back to a teammate. "Not yet," Naruto muttered under his breath as the ball moved away. His time was coming. Midway through the first half, Ubers won possession in midfield, and the ball was quickly passed out to the right wing. The winger darted forward, drawing Monza's left back out of position, before whipping a low cross into the center. Naruto positioned himself just outside the box, his eyes scanning the field. As the cross came in, he stepped forward, meeting the ball with a deft touch that put him one-on-one with Ferrari, Monza's quickest defender. Ferrari smirked, shifting his stance. "Not getting past me." Naruto grinned, his emperor's eye flickering to life as he analyzed Ferrari's posture, the subtle shifts in his weight, and the space around him. "I was gonna take my time," Naruto said, his voice low but clear. "But everyone's watching my return." Ferrari's brow furrowed as Naruto's grin widened. "I'm sorry," Naruto continued, his tone tinged with playful confidence, "but you're just the opening act in my story." Naruto surged forward, driving at Ferrari with sharp, controlled touches. He feinted to the left, drawing Ferrari slightly off balance, before cutting back sharply to the right. Ferrari scrambled to recover, but Naruto had already anticipated his move. With a quick step over and a sudden shift in pace, Naruto cut back again, sending Ferrari tumbling to the ground. As Ferrari hit the turf, Naruto paused for a moment, staring him down with a grin. "Thanks for playing." With Ferrari out of the way, Naruto turned his attention to the goal. The keeper, Donati, rushed off his line, trying to close the distance before Naruto could shoot. Naruto's eyes narrowed, his focus sharpening as he saw the faint glimmer of his golden light, his goal formula. As Donati lunged forward, Naruto waited for the perfect moment. Then, with a subtle flick of his boot, he chipped the ball over the keeper's outstretched arms. The ball floated gracefully through the air before dipping into the back of the net. Naruto didn't wait to see it land. He had already turned toward the corner flag, walking calmly with his head held high, his arms at his sides. The stadium erupted in cheers, the crowd roaring as Naruto scored his first goal since his return. Naruto smirked as he raised his forearm. Lorenzo, jogging over for the celebration, tilted his head, his eyes narrowing in confusion. "What was that?" Naruto pointed back and forth between them with a playful grin. "Chills," he said simply, before he began slapping it 3 times in quick succession. Lorenzo stared at him for a moment before bursting into laughter. "All right, Uzumaki. Chills it is." He mimicked the gesture, slapping his own forearm with a wide grin. The two exchanged a nod before jogging back toward midfield, their friendship drawing cheers and applause from the sidelines. Even Snuffy, watching intently from the bench, allowed himself a small smile. The Monza players gathered around the center circle, visibly shaken by Naruto's first goal. Their defenders, Ferrari and Rossi, exchanged hurried words, clearly trying to reorganize. Monza's captain gestured emphatically, urging his teammates to remain composed. Naruto jogged back into position, a sharp grin playing on his lips. His earlier display had sent a clear message: he was here to dominate. Lorenzo, jogging alongside him, chuckled. "Think they're scared yet?" Naruto glanced at him, his smirk widening. "Not yet. But they will be." The whistle blew, and Monza kicked off. The ball moved swiftly through their midfield, but the cracks in their once flawless passing game were beginning to show. The pressure from Ubers was relentless, their defensive shape tightening like a noose. As Monza pushed forward, Lorenzo intercepted a wayward pass with ease, his tall frame cutting an imposing figure in the back line. With a lazy flick of his boot, he sent the ball soaring upfield toward Naruto. Naruto tracked the ball, his eyes narrowing as Ferrari sprinted toward him again. The Monza defender, clearly rattled from their earlier encounter, approached cautiously this time, keeping a low stance. Not falling for it again, Ferrari muttered, his focus intense. Naruto smirked, sensing the defender's hesitation. His emperor's eye flickered to life, analyzing every micro-movement: Ferrari's shifting weight, his guarded positioning, the angle of his approach. "I don't need you to fall," Naruto said quietly, advancing with the ball at his feet. "I just need you to move." Naruto feinted left, his body leaning just enough to draw Ferrari's attention. As the defender adjusted to block the move, Naruto quickly shifted his weight and drove to the right, using his speed to slip past Ferrari's outstretched leg. Before Ferrari could recover, Naruto was already cutting into the box, his eyes scanning for an opening. Monza's keeper, Donati, rushed out again, but this time Naruto opted for a low, powerful shot. The ball zipped past the keeper's outstretched hand and into the bottom corner. "Goal!" Naruto raised a single finger to the sky as the crowd erupted, his teammates rushing toward him. 2-0. Back in defense, Lorenzo continued to live up to his title as the ace-eater. Monza's striker, Luca, had been completely neutralized, unable to make any meaningful runs or link up with his teammates. Lorenzo's unorthodox zombie dribbling played a key role, confusing attackers and effortlessly bypassing Monza's press. At one point, Luca, clearly frustrated, tried to shoulder Lorenzo off the ball during a contested play. But Lorenzo didn't flinch. Instead, he shifted his weight awkwardly, causing Luca to lose balance and stumble. "Nice try," Lorenzo said with a grin, casually dribbling the ball forward before launching a perfect diagonal pass to Naruto. With the ball at his feet again, Naruto felt the crowd's energy pushing him forward. Uber's midfield surged around him, their movement synchronized and seamless. Every pass and run had purpose, creating openings and drawing Monza's players out of position. Naruto found himself one-on-one with Rossi this time. The towering defender loomed over him, his sheer physicality an obvious advantage. "You're not getting past me," Rossi growled, planting his feet firmly. Naruto didn't reply. Instead, he shifted the ball back and forth, waiting for the perfect moment. His emperor's eye zeroed in on Rossi's stance, identifying a slight gap in his footing. And then, like lightning, Naruto struck. With a quick step over and a burst of speed, he slipped through the gap, leaving Rossi flat-footed. Approaching the box, Naruto took a powerful shot aimed for the top corner. Donati Dove, managing to get a fingertip to the ball and deflect it onto the post. The crowd gasped as the ball ricocheted back into play. But Ubers weren't done. The Ubers left winger sprinted onto the rebound, cutting the ball back into the 6-yard box. Monza's defenders scrambled to clear it, but Naruto had already repositioned himself. With a quick flick of his boot, Naruto redirected the ball into the net, completing his hat trick. The crowd erupted again, chants of "Uzumaki" echoing across the pitch. Naruto turned to the corner flag, raising his forearm and slapping it again. His teammates followed suit, mimicking the gesture with grins on their faces. From the sidelines, Snuffy watched the celebration with a faint smirk. He turned to Marcelo, who stood beside him, jotting notes on his clipboard. "He's a monster," Snuffy said simply. Marcelo nodded. "He's got the instincts of a predator and the confidence to back it up. But what's really impressive is how quickly he's integrated into the system. He's not just scoring, he's elevating everyone around him." Snuffy's gaze lingered on Naruto, who was jogging back to the center circle with Lorenzo. If he keeps this up, he won't just be a great striker. He'll be a leader. As the match entered its final minutes, Ubers continued to dominate. Monza, visibly deflated, struggled to string together meaningful attacks. Lorenzo and the rest of the defense remained impenetrable, while Naruto and the midfield orchestrated wave after wave of attacks. The final whistle blew, signaling a decisive 3-0 victory for Ubers. Naruto, drenched in sweat but grinning from ear to ear, felt a surge of pride. This was more than just a win, it was a statement. As the team gathered in the locker room, Lorenzo clapped Naruto on the back. 3 goals, Uzumaki. You really are a beast. Naruto laughed, shaking his head. Couldn't have done it without you shutting them down at the back. DMN right, Lorenzo said with a grin. Ace Eater, remember? Naruto smirked. And the Emperor. The two shared a fist bump as the rest of the team cheered and celebrated around them. The morning after the match. Naruto's hat trick against Monza FC had sent shockwaves through the football world. Articles, highlights, and social media posts flooded the internet, with fans and pundits alike praising his performance. The buzz surrounding him wasn't just about the goals, it was about the way he had played, calculated, dominant, and electric. Uzumaki's hat trick, Uber's new striker shines bright against Monza, Football Italia. Naruto Uzumaki made an emphatic statement in Uber's 3-0 victory over Monza FC. The Japanese prodigy displayed poise, tactical brilliance, and a lethal finishing touch, earning him a standing ovation from fans and teammates alike. From recovery to greatness, Naruto Uzumaki proves his worth, Goal Report. After months of recovery and doubts about his return, Naruto Uzumaki silenced critics with a stellar performance. His ability to outmaneuver defenders and his hat trick cemented his place as one of the brightest young talents in football today. The new Emperor, Uzumaki's dominance at Uber's Sports View Global. Dubbed the Emperor by fans online, Naruto Uzumaki is quickly becoming a force to be reckoned with. His iconic celebration and calculated gameplay have already made him a fan favorite. Naruto's social media accounts exploded with activity. Overnight, his follower counts on Instagram surged past 60,000, with thousands of new fans commenting on his posts. Footy fanatic, bro, that chip for the first goal? Ice cold. Ubers_obsessed, you're just the opening act in my story, Naruto Uzumaki, 2017. Absolute king. Japan soccer love, another Japanese star making waves in Europe. Let's go, Naruto. The hashtag Uzumaki chills began trending, inspired by Naruto's unique celebration. Fans from around the world started posting videos and memes of themselves mimicking the arm slap gesture. Inori, under her funeral parlor alias, had been one of the first to post highlights from the match. Her tweets and Instagram posts quickly went viral, garnering thousands of likes and retweets. Naruto Uzumaki, hat trick. Emperor's dominance. A performance for the ages. Uber's decision to place him as their striker has already paid off in gold. Her in-depth analysis of the game, including breakdowns of Naruto's movement and decision-making, earned her praise from football fans and analysts alike. But what caught her attention most was a notification she received later that evening. Inori was relaxing in her hotel room, scrolling through her phone, when she noticed something unusual: a new follower. Checking the notification, her eyebrows rose in surprise. Naruto Uzumaki official followed you. The account, verified with a blue checkmark, had just crossed 60,000 followers and was growing by the minute. Curious, Inori clicked on it, scrolling through Naruto's posts. Pictures of him in training, clips of his matches, and even a few casual photos filled the feed. It was the kind of account that screamed authenticity, unpolished, but full of personality. Moments later, another notification popped up. Message request from Naruto Uzumaki official. Inori opened the message, intrigued. Naruto, did I live up to your expectations? She stared at the text for a moment, a small smile creeping onto her face. Naruto's confidence was evident, but there was also a genuine curiosity behind his words. He wasn't just fishing for compliments, he truly wanted to know what she thought. Inori typed back. Inori, you did indeed. That was a performance worth watching. Naruto replied almost instantly. Naruto, good. Glad I didn't disappoint the reporter who's been keeping tabs on me. Inori chuckled softly, shaking her head. His mix of playfulness and sincerity was refreshing. She decided to keep the conversation going. Inori, so, what's next for you, Emperor? Naruto's response was simple but confident. Naruto, becoming the best. Meanwhile, fans online speculated about Naruto's future. Some debated whether he would stay at Uber's long-term or if he would eventually return to Real. Others began drawing comparisons between Naruto and established stars, calling him the next big thing in football. Football dreamer, if Uzumaki keeps this up, he'll be playing in the Champions League in no time. Striker life, Real Academy has to regret letting him go. Ubers are building a monster. Funeral parlor fan, Inori's been covering Naruto for a while now. She called it before anyone else. Props to her. Later that night, Naruto lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His phone buzzed occasionally with notifications, but he ignored them for now. The adrenaline from the match was still coursing through his veins, but his mind was clear. He thought about the message he had sent to Inori and her response. Her acknowledgement felt different from the usual praise, more grounded, more real. It wasn't just about the goals or the performance. It was about the journey he was on and the potential she saw in him. Becoming the best, he thought, repeating his own words to himself. A week later, training ground. Naruto completed a grueling series of drills. His movements were sharper, more deliberate, a testament to the confidence he had gained from his recent performance. From the sidelines, Inori stood with her camera, snapping photos of the session. She had secured permission to observe Uber's training sessions for a new piece she was working on, a deep dive into the club's tactical brilliance and its rising stars. Naruto, of course, was the focal point. As Naruto jogged toward the water station during a break, he caught sight of Inori adjusting her camera lens. Grinning, he approached her. "Still following me, huh?" Naruto teased, grabbing a bottle of water and taking a long sip. Inori lowered her camera, smirking. "Following is a strong word. Reporting, maybe." Naruto chuckled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Guess I should be flattered. What are you writing this time?" "Your journey," Inori said simply, tilting her head as she regarded him. "How you've adapted to Uber's system, the chemistry with Lorenzo, your return from injury, it's all fascinating." Naruto raised an eyebrow, leaning casually on the water station. "Fascinating? That's a first." Inori rolled her eyes. "Don't let it go to your head, Emperor." Naruto laughed, shaking his head. Too late. Later that day, after training wrapped up, Inori approached Naruto with her notebook in hand. They sat on the bleachers overlooking the empty pitch, the fading sunlight casting a warm glow over the scene. "Mind if I ask you a few questions for the piece?" Inori asked. Naruto shrugged. "Sure. Fire away." Inori glanced down at her notes. "Alright, let's start with this. How does it feel to be back after the injury? Did you ever doubt you'd reach this point?" Naruto's expression grew thoughtful. "It was tough. There were moments when I wondered if I'd be the same player again. But I kept reminding myself why I started in the first place. Being the best, that's my goal. And if I let doubts hold me back, I'd never get there." Inori nodded, jotting down his words. "And how about Ubers? What's been the biggest challenge since joining the team?" "Adapting to their system," Naruto admitted. "At Real, it was more about individual brilliance. Here, it's about teamwork, discipline, and precision. It's not just about scoring, it's about understanding the entire game. But honestly, I think it's making me a better player." Inori smiled faintly. "That's what I thought." Naruto leaned back slightly, crossing his arms. "Alright, my turn. Why do you care so much about my story?" Caught off guard, Inori hesitated for a moment. Then she shrugged, her voice calm but sincere. "Because it's real. You're not just a player, you're someone people can relate to. You faced setbacks, doubts, and challenges, but you keep moving forward. That's inspiring." Naruto stared at her for a moment, then grinned. "Flattering me again, huh?" Inori smirked. "Don't get used to it." Over the next few weeks, Inori continued to cover Naruto's journey, attending his matches and writing detailed articles that highlighted his growth as a player. Her posts on Funeral Parlor gained traction, with fans praising her ability to capture the nuances of the game and Naruto's personality. Naruto began engaging more with her posts, liking and occasionally commenting on them. Their interactions didn't go unnoticed by fans, who quickly began shipping the two. Uzumaki Nation, Naruto and Inori would make such a power couple. Just saying. Footy Insider 88, loving the way Funeral Parlor covers Uzumaki's journey. Real talent recognizing real talent. Dreams of you, Naruto x Inori? Make it happen. While Naruto found the comments amusing, he kept things professional with Inori, focusing on building mutual respect and trust. As Naruto sat on the edge of his bed, staring down at his worn boots. The scuffed leather, frayed stitching, and thinning soles were a testament to how much they had been through. These boots had carried him through recovery, training, and his dominant return to the pitch. But now, it was time for a change. He grabbed his phone and opened his contacts, scrolling until he found Inori. Smirking slightly, he typed out a message. "Naruto, hey, I need new boots. Want to come with me? Still don't know the area that well." It didn't take long for Inori to reply. "Inori, sure. I can show you around." Naruto grinned, standing up and grabbing a cap from his dresser. His name was growing rapidly in Italy due to his performances with Ubers, and he didn't want to draw unnecessary attention. Naruto arrived at the mall dressed in a black hoodie, matching joggers, and a cap pulled low over his face. The outfit was simple but effective at keeping his identity low-key. He stood near the entrance, glancing around until he spotted Inori approaching. She wore a casual yet cute outfit, a white sweater tucked into a pleated skirt, paired with ankle boots. Her pinkish hair framed her face perfectly, making her stand out in the crowd. Naruto found himself staring for a moment before quickly looking away. "Hey," Inori said, smiling as she walked up. "Ready?" "Yeah," Naruto replied, returning the smile. "Thanks for coming." "No problem," she said, adjusting her bag. "It's about time someone helped you find your way around." Naruto chuckled. "Guess I should feel lucky to have a guide like you." The pair made their way to a large sports store, where rows of boots lined the walls. Naruto's eyes lit up as he scanned the selection. The store had everything from the latest releases to classic models. Naruto walked over to a display featuring Adidas Predators, picking up a pair and inspecting them closely. He tried them on and took a few test kicks against a nearby target setup. "Not bad," Naruto said, slipping them off. "But they don't feel right when I strike the ball." Next, he moved on to a pair of F50s, renowned for their lightweight design. He liked the feel but shook his head after testing them. "Still not it," he muttered. Inori, who had been watching him with amusement, stepped forward. "Picky, aren't you?" Naruto smirked. "When it comes to boots?" "Yeah. They have to be perfect." "Well, try these," Inori said, pointing to a display at the corner of the shop. The boots were Nike Air Zoom Mercurial Superflies, their design sleek and eye-catching. The color started as a soft, light pink near the toe and gradually darkened into a deeper shade of pink toward the heel. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Flashy. Too flashy?" Inori asked, tilting her head. Naruto shook his head, picking up the boots and examining them. "Nah. They're different. Let's see how they feel." He tried them on, jogging a few steps before striking a practice ball. The moment his foot connected with the ball, his eyes lit up. The boots felt light, almost like an extension of his own body. "These are it," Naruto said, grinning. "I'm getting these." As Naruto walked back toward the counter, Inori glanced at the boots and raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure about the color?" "They're pink." Naruto smirked, turning to her. "Yeah, I'm sure." "Why pink?" she asked, genuinely curious. Naruto shrugged, his grin widening. "They remind me of you." Inori blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "You've been here from the beginning," Naruto said, his tone more serious now. "Covering my time at Ubers, telling my story. These boots? They'll make sure you're always a part of my style." For the first time, Inori's composed demeanor faltered. Her cheeks flushed a light shade of pink, matching her hair, as she looked away briefly. "That's thoughtful." Naruto chuckled, enjoying her reaction. "Don't get too flattered now." Inori crossed her arms, regaining her composure. "I won't. But you better make those boots look good on the pitch." "Oh, I will," Naruto said confidently. "Just watch." After purchasing the boots, the pair wandered through the mall for a while longer, with Inori pointing out her favorite spots. Naruto appreciated her company. It felt natural, easy, like they had been friends for much longer than they actually had. "So, what's next for you, Emperor?" Inori teased as they approached the parking lot. "Keep winning, keep scoring, and keep giving you something to write about," Naruto replied with a grin. Inori rolled her eyes. "You're impossible. And you're stuck with me now," Naruto shot back, holding up the bag with the pink boots. "These prove it." As they said their goodbyes and parted ways, Naruto couldn't help but glance back at Inori. There was something about her sharp wit, her passion for storytelling, and the way she could make him feel like just another guy despite his growing fame. Sliding into the back seat of his car, Naruto stared at the boots for a moment before muttering to himself, "Guess I better make these legendary." As his driver took him back to the Uber's dorms, Naruto stood on the training pitch, his new Nike Air Zoom Mercurial Superflies gleaming under the bright sunlight. The light pink boots, fading into a deeper shade of pink, added a flash of flair to his appearance. He felt good, more than good, actually. After recent successes on the field and the confidence boost from his evolving abilities, Naruto's was at an all-time high. Standing opposite him were Snuffy and Lorenzo. Snuffy, Uber's king, exuded a quiet dominance that could be felt even in his relaxed stance. Lorenzo, the Face Eater, stood beside him, his golden teeth flashing as he grinned lazily. The setup was clear: Naruto versus Snuffy and Lorenzo. A simple test. As Naruto laced up his boots, he glanced at Snuffy before him. 2-on-1? That doesn't seem fair. Snuffy raised an eyebrow, his calm expression unchanging. Why? Do you think you can take me on your own? Naruto grinned, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Yeah. I could. Lorenzo let out a low chuckle, clearly entertained by Naruto's audacity. Bold words, Uzumaki. Snuffy's lips curved into a faint smile, the kind that hinted at amusement and a challenge. Are you interested in succeeding me as Uber's next king, Uzumaki? Naruto straightened, his grin fading into a more serious expression. Nah, he said, his voice firm. I don't plan on being just the king of Ubers. I'm aiming to be the emperor of all football. For a moment, Snuffy simply stared at Naruto, as if weighing his words. Then he nodded, his smile widening. Very well. Let this be a lesson for you. Naruto started with the ball. He dribbled forward confidently, his emperor's eye flickering as he scanned the field. Every micro-movement, every subtle shift in weight from Snuffy and Lorenzo was processed and analyzed in an instant. But Snuffy wasn't just any opponent. As Naruto tried to dart past him, Snuffy moved with effortless precision, positioning himself perfectly to block Naruto's path. His exquisite ball control was immediately apparent as he used his body to shield the ball, preventing Naruto from advancing. Too predictable, Snuffy said calmly, pivoting and passing the ball to Lorenzo with a perfectly weighted touch. Lorenzo, with his unorthodox zombie dribbling, advanced down the field in a way that should have been easy to predict but wasn't. His upper and lower body moved in such disjointed, unpredictable patterns that Naruto found himself momentarily thrown off. Come on, Uzumaki, Lorenzo taunted, flicking the ball away from Naruto with ease. You're making this too easy. Naruto gritted his teeth, quickly adjusting. He focused on the ball, ignoring Lorenzo's feints, and darted in at just the right moment to steal it back. Gotcha! Naruto smirked, pivoting sharply to evade Lorenzo's reach. As Naruto charged forward, he saw the path to the goal clear, open. But just as he prepared to take his shot, Snuffy appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, cutting him off with a perfectly timed interception. Your eyes see a lot, Snuffy said, his tone measured. But seeing isn't enough. Naruto's eyes widened as Snuffy used his metavision to read Naruto's movements, anticipating his every decision before it happened. With world-class precision, Snuffy shielded the ball, his balance and positioning making it impossible for Naruto to recover possession. Football isn't just about speed or skill, Snuffy continued, effortlessly keeping the ball away from Naruto. It's about controlling the flow of the game. That's what makes an emperor. Naruto stepped back, his mind racing. He wasn't used to being outplayed like this. But instead of feeling discouraged, he felt a surge of determination. All right, old man, Naruto muttered, a grin tugging at his lips. Let's see how you handle this. Naruto's emperor's eye activated again, sharper this time. He began predicting Snuffy's movements with greater accuracy, waiting for the exact moment when Snuffy's balance shifted slightly. When it did, Naruto pounced, slipping around Snuffy and regaining control of the ball. For a split second, Naruto had a clear shot on goal. He planted his foot and struck the ball with his signature trivela. The ball curled beautifully toward the top corner. But Lorenzo was there. With a perfectly timed leap, Lorenzo headed the ball away, landing gracefully. Nice try, Uzumaki. But you're not scoring today. As the session continued, Naruto found himself pushed to his limits. Snuffy's world-class ball control and superior physicality made him nearly impossible to get past, while Lorenzo's ace-eater instincts and defensive brilliance ensured that every attack Naruto launched was met with resistance. By the end of the session, Naruto was drenched in sweat, breathing heavily. But his eyes still burned with determination. "You've got a long way to go," Snuffy said, tossing Naruto the ball. "But you've got the fire. That's a start." Naruto caught the ball, his grin returning. "Don't worry. I'll get there." Snuffy smirked. "We'll see." Later that evening, Naruto sat in his room, replaying the session in his mind. Snuffy's words echoed in his ears, "Football isn't just about speed or skill. It's about controlling the flow of the game." Naruto clenched his fists, a determined smile forming on his face. "Control the flow, huh? Alright, Snuffy. I'll master that too." Naruto and Lorenzo jogged a few laps around the pitch, the crisp morning air filling their lungs. It was a light training day, meant to focus on stamina and tactical discussions rather than high-intensity drills. Beside him, Lorenzo jogged with an easy gait, his lanky frame moving fluidly despite his casual demeanor. Naruto glanced at him, curious about the man who had become such a critical part of Uber's defense. "Hey, Lorenzo," Naruto said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Why do you play football?" Lorenzo tilted his head slightly, as if the question amused him. His signature golden teeth flashed in the sunlight as he gave Naruto a lazy grin. "You really want to know, Uzumaki?" "Yeah," Naruto said, his gaze steady. "I want to know what drives you." Lorenzo slowed to a walk, motioning for Naruto to follow. His usually carefree expression softened, replaced by something deeper, more reflective. "All right," Lorenzo began, his voice calm but tinged with emotion. "I'll tell you. But don't say I didn't warn you. It's not a happy story, okay?" Naruto nodded, his curiosity piqued. "I grew up in a miserable household," Lorenzo said, his purple eyes gazing into the distance. "No money, no stability, just chaos. My parents? They left me behind like trash. I had to survive on my own, okay?" Naruto frowned, listening intently. "I lived on the streets, swindling people out of their money just to eat," Lorenzo continued, his tone matter of fact. "At first, I thought it was fun, you know? Outsmarting people, surviving. But eventually, it got old. No matter how much I hustled, it was never enough. I lost hope, I was ready to give up." Naruto's chest tightened at the rawness in Lorenzo's voice. "And then?" Lorenzo smirked, though it lacked his usual humor. "And then I met Snuffy. He found me when I was at my lowest and said something crazy, 'Play football with me, and I'll help you turn your life around.' I thought he was nuts. But I had nothing to lose, so I agreed." Lorenzo tapped his golden teeth, the grin returning to his face. "These? Snuffy paid for them. Said they were a fresh start. Ever since, I've followed him without question. He's the only person I truly respect." Naruto was quiet for a moment, processing Lorenzo's story. "So that's why you're so obsessed with money?" Lorenzo shrugged. "Yeah. Money makes the world go round, it's the only thing that really matters. You can buy food, power, influence, even freedom with enough money. And people? They only have value if they bring something to the table." "That's a pretty cold way to see things," Naruto said, his voice thoughtful. Lorenzo smirked. "Maybe. But it's how I survived. And now that I've made it this far, I'm not stopping until I've got everything I need." Naruto stopped walking, turning to face Lorenzo fully. "I get it. You've been through a lot. But let me tell you this, if you stick with me, I'll help you make all the money you'll ever need." Lorenzo raised an eyebrow. "Oh, yeah? How's that? Simple, Naruto said, grinning. We're gonna win every game we play. When I become the best striker in the world, you'll be right there with me as the best defender. The endorsements, the contracts, the fame, it'll all come pouring in. Lorenzo's grin widened, his golden teeth catching the light. Alright, Uzumaki. As long as we keep winning and I keep getting paid, I'll do whatever it takes. As they resumed jogging, Naruto asked another question. By the way, who's your favorite player? Lorenzo didn't hesitate. Paolo Maldini. He's the ultimate defender, graceful, intelligent, unshakable. The guy was a wall, and he did it all with class. Not bad, Naruto said, nodding in approval. Mine are George Best, Johan Cruyff, and Lionel Messi. Lorenzo laughed. Big names, huh? Guess that fits you. DMN right it does, Naruto replied, grinning. I'll take the best parts of all of them and make something even better. As they finished their laps, Naruto held out a fist. So, what do you say, Lorenzo? Let's make a deal. You help me dominate on the pitch, and I'll make sure you get everything you're after. Lorenzo stared at Naruto's outstretched fist for a moment before smirking and bumping it with his own. Deal. The two of them exchanged a nod, a silent understanding passing between them. Naruto's drive to become the emperor of football and Lorenzo's hunger for success had aligned, forming a bond that would make them an unstoppable force. From the sidelines, Snuffy watched the interaction between Naruto and Lorenzo with a faint smile. He didn't need to hear their words to know that something important had just transpired. Interesting, Snuffy muttered to himself. They're starting to understand what it means to rely on each other. This could be the beginning of something special. Match day, UEFA Youth League. The players prepared for their next UEFA Youth League match. Their opponents, Berserk Dortmund, weren't the toughest challenge on paper, but in football, no match was ever truly easy. For Naruto, this wasn't just about winning, it was about showing the world why he belonged at the top. Naruto laced up his boots, the vibrant color catching the light. As he stood, his thoughts drifted to the past week, the headlines, and the growing buzz around his name. But there was something else gnawing at the back of his mind. Naruto had spent the night before watching highlights of recent matches, not just of Berserk Dortmund, but of Itoshire SAE. The once dreaming striker had transformed into a world-class midfielder, orchestrating plays with pinpoint precision and executing his trademark perfect kick technique. The way SAE bent the ball around defenders or sent it hurtling into the net from impossible angles, it was nothing short of breathtaking. It was also infuriating. Naruto leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a scowl on his face as he replayed one particularly brilliant assist from SAE. Why did you change? He muttered to himself. You had everything to be the best striker. But as much as it annoyed him, Naruto couldn't deny SAE's brilliance. Watching him play wasn't just inspiring, it was unsettling. For the first time in a long while, Naruto questioned who was better between the two of them. SAE's growing popularity didn't help either. Though Naruto's own fame was on the rise, SAE still stood ahead. He had experience, a year's advantage in age, and the pedigree of being a trailblazer in Japanese football. But Naruto didn't dwell on that too long. His focus was always forward. One thing, however, was clear in his mind: if they ever played together again, the results would be devastating for their opponents. The mere thought of reuniting with SAE on the pitch sent a thrill through Naruto, but he quickly shoved it aside. This wasn't about SAE, not yet. As Naruto stared out at the pitch before the match, his jaw tightened as another name crossed his mind: Julian Loki. The man who had started it all. Naruto's last encounter with Loki had been a bitter memory, one that fueled his drive every single day. Loki's words still echoed in his head: what's the point of seeing if you can't react on it? That humiliating loss, compounded by the injury that followed, had been a turning point for Naruto. He clenched his fists, the dark look in his eyes returning. Next time we meet, Loki, Naruto whispered, you'll pay 10 times over. The UEFA Youth League match between Ubers and Berserk Dortmund kicked off under clear skies. The stadium hummed with energy, the small but passionate crowd eager to see Uber's rising star, Naruto Uzumaki, in action. The coach's instructions had been clear: control the tempo, exploit Dortmund's weaknesses, and finish decisively. Naruto stood in the center circle, exuding confidence, his body language screamed dominance. Lorenzo stood behind him, ready to lock down any threat Dortmund tried to muster. Welcome to tonight's UEFA Youth League clash between Ubers and Berserk Dortmund. It's a chilly evening here, but the action on the pitch promises to heat things up. That's right. All eyes are on one player in particular, Naruto Uzumaki. The Japanese prodigy has been making waves recently, and fans are eager to see if he can deliver another standout performance. From the first whistle, Naruto took command of the match. His emperor's eye flickered to life as he read the movements of Dortmund's defenders, exploiting their positioning with clinical precision. Within minutes, he was orchestrating Uber's attacks, dictating the flow of the game like a maestro. In the 12th minute, a quick 1-2 with his winger on the left flank sent Naruto charging into Dortmund's box. Two defenders closed in, but Naruto's emperor's eye allowed him to anticipate their moves. He faked a shot, cutting inside as the defenders slid past him. With the goal in his sights, Naruto unleashed his golden finesse shot, curving the ball with surgical precision into the top corner. The keeper stretched desperately but couldn't reach it. That's absolutely sublime from Naruto Uzumaki. A finesse shot with pinpoint accuracy into the top corner. The keeper had no chance, the commentator added. 1-0. Naruto turned to the crowd, raising his forearm and slapping it as he grinned. The fans roared, and Lorenzo jogged over with a wide grin. First of many, Lorenzo said, clapping him on the back. Dortmund tried to recover, pushing forward aggressively, but their attempts were futile against Uber's defensive wall. Lorenzo, playing the role of the ace-eater, intercepted pass after pass, his unorthodox movements confusing Dortmund's attackers. In the 28th minute, Ubers earned a corner. Naruto jogged over to take it, scanning the box for targets. He locked eyes with Lorenzo, who nodded subtly. Naruto's delivery was perfect, a high, curling ball that dropped right in the heart of the 6-yard box. Lorenzo rose above everyone else, his height and timing giving him a clear advantage. He met the ball with a thunderous header that crashed into the back of the net. The ace-eater strikes. Lorenzo rises above everyone, and it's a textbook header. Ubers double their lead, the commentator added. Naruto gets the assist, but let's give credit to Lorenzo here: perfect timing, unstoppable power. Dortmund's defense had no answer for that. Another commentator added. 2-0. The second half began with Ubers leading 2-0, and Naruto was determined to leave no doubt about his dominance. In the 57th minute, Ubers won another corner, this time on the right side. Naruto jogged over to take it, his eyes narrowing as he analyzed the positioning of Dortmund's defenders and their goalkeeper. A thought crossed his mind. Why not? He adjusted the ball carefully, took a few steps back, and inhaled deeply. As he approached, his golden light flickered in his vision. With perfect technique, Naruto struck the ball with the outside of his foot, curling it sharply. The ball swerved through the air, arcing directly toward the goal. The keeper, realizing too late, scrambled to adjust, but the ball dipped under the crossbar and into the net. The stadium erupted in disbelief. Scoring directly from a corner was rare, and Naruto had just pulled it off with style. What can't this kid do? Naruto Uzumaki with a moment of magic that will be talked about for years to come. Look at him, cool as you like. The confidence, the technique, it's all there. This is why people call him the Emperor. He's not just playing football, he's rewriting the rules. 3-0. Lorenzo, grinning from ear to ear, dropped to his knees in front of Naruto, pretending to shine his boots theatrically. Naruto smirked, pointing to his boots with a wink, hoping Inori had caught the celebration. The game was firmly in Uber's control, but Naruto wasn't done yet. In the 74th minute, a Dortmund defender made a desperate clearance, only for Lorenzo to intercept and send a long ball back into the box. Naruto, perfectly positioned, controlled it with his chest. One defender rushed toward him, but Naruto used his Emperor's eye to read his intentions. With a quick feint, Naruto left him stumbling before slotting the ball past the keeper with a composed finish. 4-0. And he's done it, Naruto Uzumaki completes his hat trick. We're witnessing the rise of a superstar. At this rate, Uzumaki won't just be dominating the youth league, he'll be a household name in no time. Naruto raised his hands, soaking in the applause. The crowd chanted his name, and his teammates swarmed him, celebrating their unstoppable star. The match ended with a dominant 4-0 victory for Ubers. Naruto's hat trick and Lorenzo's commanding performance at the back solidified their status as a lethal duo. The players left the pitch to a standing ovation, their confidence soaring. Watching from the stands, Inori had captured every moment with her camera. She couldn't help but smile as Naruto pointed to his boots after the Olympico, an unmistakable gesture for her. You really are something, Uzumaki, she thought, shaking her head in amusement as she reviewed her photos. This story keeps getting better. A masterclass from Ubers today, led by the brilliance of Naruto Uzumaki. 3 goals, an assist, and a performance that will be remembered. Another commenter added, and let's not forget Don Lorenzo. His header and defensive dominance made this a complete team effort. Ubers are looking like a serious contender for the title. But the spotlight will inevitably be on Uzumaki. The Olympico alone would have made this match legendary. He's proving that he's not just good, he's special. Back in the locker room, Naruto sat with his boots in hand, a satisfied grin on his face. Lorenzo plopped down beside him, laughing. You're insane, Uzumaki, Lorenzo said. An Olympico? Seriously? Naruto shrugged, smirking. Had to make it interesting. Lorenzo leaned back, crossing his arms. Keep playing like that, and I'll keep shining your boots. Naruto laughed, slapping Lorenzo on the back. Deal. Just make sure you're ready for the next one. We've got a lot more to win. Lorenzo grinned. Always. As Naruto leaned back, letting the cheers from outside wash over him, he thought about everything still ahead, the rivals to face, the goals to score, and the legacy he wanted to build. The morning after. The buzz from their dominant 4-0 victory against Berserk Dortmund hadn't subsided. Naruto's hat trick, particularly his audacious Olympico, had captured the imagination of fans, pundits, and media outlets worldwide. Naruto scrolled through his phone in his room, his timeline flooded with reactions, highlight reels, and endless praise. His follower count, once a respectable 60,000, had skyrocketed to 90,000 overnight and was climbing by the second. Naruto's performance dominated the sports pages, his name plastered across headlines. The Emperor's stage, Naruto Uzumaki stuns with hat trick, including an Olympico, Football Italia. In one of the most jaw-dropping performances of the UEFA Youth League season, Naruto Uzumaki delivered a hat trick of brilliance against Berserk Dortmund. His Olympico scoring directly from a corner solidified his place as one of football's rising stars. The Emperor's eye strikes again, Uzumaki's tactical brilliance on full display, goal report. Naruto Uzumaki is more than a scorer, he's a commander on the field. His ability to read the game and execute with precision makes him a unique talent in modern football. Olympico of the year? Uzumaki's stunning corner goal has fans talking, SportsView Global. Scoring from a corner is no small feat, but Uzumaki made it look effortless. His audacity and execution have fans wondering, how far can this kid go? The hashtags #UzumakiChills, #Emperor'sEye, and #Naruto Uzumaki began trending globally, with fans and analysts alike flooding social media with clips and reactions. Footy King, that Olympico was ridiculous. Uzumaki isn't just good, he's revolutionary. Naruto fanboy, the Emperor of Football has arrived. You're watching the future GOAT, people. Japan Soccer News, Japanese players making waves in Europe. Uzumaki and Itoshire Sae are putting Japan on the football map. Even other players began to take notice, with several commenting on his performance. Julian Loki posted cryptically, "Audacity on the pitch, we'll see how long it lasts." Mohamed Salah, Uzumaki's got the flair. looking forward to seeing what he does next. As always, Inori, under her funeral parlor, was among the first to dissect Naruto's performance. Her Instagram post featured a photo of Naruto mid-shot, with a glowing caption. Naruto Uzumaki continues to defy expectations. 3 goals, including a masterful Olympico, in a single match. His confidence, vision, and execution set him apart. The Emperor isn't just making a statement, he's carving his legacy. The post exploded with likes and comments, cementing Inori as a trusted voice in Naruto's growing narrative. Fans noticed her frequent coverage of him, and speculation about their connection grew. The media began drawing comparisons between Naruto and other legendary players. Some saw flashes of Lionel Messi in his dribbling, while others likened his vision and tactical play to Johan Cruyff. But most agreed that Naruto was forging a unique path, blending the best elements of football's greatest with his own flair. Football obsessed, is it too early to say Uzumaki is Japan's answer to Messi? Legend talk, Naruto Uzumaki plays with the creativity of George Best and the dominance of Ronaldo Nazario. He's scary good. While the world buzzed about him, Naruto remained grounded. Sitting in his room, he scrolled through the endless posts and articles but refused to let them get to his head. It's not enough, Naruto muttered, his emperor's eye sparking to life momentarily as he messaged Inori. Naruto, saw your post. Not bad. Think I lived up to the hype? Moments later, a reply came through. Inori, you didn't just live up to it, you set the bar higher. Naruto grinned, typing back quickly. Naruto, guess I'll have to keep raising it, then. Don't blink, you might miss something. Inori, wouldn't dream of it, Emperor. It was a quiet afternoon at the Uber's training complex, the kind of day meant for recovery and light drills. Naruto was mid-stretch in the locker room when an assistant coach walked in, clipboard in hand. Uzumaki, the coach called, his tone clipped but professional. Marcelo wants to see you in his office. Naruto straightened, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Now? The coach nodded. Now. As Naruto grabbed his training jacket and made his way toward the office, his mind raced. Marcelo wasn't the type to call players in casually. Whatever this was, it had to be big. Marcelo's office was a mix of utilitarian efficiency and football nostalgia, with tactical charts pinned to the walls and signed jerseys from past legends framed neatly. Marcelo himself sat behind his desk, a small, unreadable smile on his face. Sit down, Naruto, he said, gesturing to the chair opposite him. Naruto obliged, his posture relaxed but his mind sharp. What's up, coach? Marcelo folded his hands, leaning forward slightly. Naruto, I just received a call from the Japan Football Association. They've been monitoring your performances closely, and they've decided to call you up to the senior national team for the upcoming World Cup. Naruto blinked, the weight of the words hitting him like a truck. For a moment, he just stared at Marcelo, processing. The senior team? Naruto repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. For the World Cup? Marcelo nodded. That's right. It's rare for a player your age to be called up, but you've proven yourself on the pitch. They want you as part of the squad. Naruto leaned back in his chair, a grin slowly spreading across his face. Well, guess they couldn't ignore me forever. Marcelo chuckled. That ego of yours will serve you well, but remember, this is a huge step up. You'll be playing with and against some of the best players in the world. The pace, the physicality, the stakes, it's all on another level. Naruto's grin didn't waver. I know, coach. But I'm ready. This is what I've been working for. Marcelo's expression softened slightly. I believe you are. But I'll give you one piece of advice, remember what got you here. Your talent, yes, but also your drive and your ability to adapt. Don't let the occasion overwhelm you. Naruto nodded, standing up. Got it. Thanks, coach. As he turned to leave, Marcelo called out, Oh, and Naruto? Naruto glanced back over his shoulder. Make Japan proud. Word spread quickly among the Uber's players, and by the time Naruto returned to the locker room, the atmosphere was buzzing. Lorenzo was the first to approach him, grinning widely. "Look at you, Mr. International. Big time already, huh?" Naruto smirked, playfully punching Lorenzo's arm. "You're just jealous you're not representing Italy." Lorenzo laughed, holding up his hands. "Fair enough, okay? But seriously, congrats. You deserve it." The rest of the team chimed in with their congratulations, the camaraderie palpable. Despite the teasing and banter, it was clear that Naruto had earned their respect. Later that evening, Naruto called his parents to share the news. The video call connected, and Kushina's face appeared on the screen, her expression lighting up when she saw her son. "Naruto. How are you?" Kushina asked, her voice full of warmth. "I'm good, Mom." "Actually, I've got some news," Naruto said, unable to suppress his grin. Minato's face joined the frame, his expression curious. "What's the news?" Naruto took a deep breath. "I've been called up to the senior Japan national team. For the World Cup." For a moment, there was silence. Then Kushina let out a squeal of excitement, clapping her hands. "That's amazing, Naruto. I'm so proud of you." Minato smiled, his pride more understated but no less genuine. "You've earned it, son." Later that night, Naruto opened Instagram and found himself typing a message to Inori. "Naruto, guess what? I'm going to the World Cup. Senior Japan team. They called me up today." The reply came quickly. "Inori, that's incredible. Congratulations, Emperor. You're really making your mark." "Naruto, thanks. I'll make sure you've got plenty to write about." "Inori, looking forward to it. Just don't forget us small-time reporters when you're a global superstar." "Naruto, never." As he sat there in deep thought, Naruto had begun to see her as more than just a reporter. She was someone who understood his drive, his struggles, and his goals. Naruto stared at the screen, her name highlighted in his messages. He took a deep breath before typing again. "Naruto, hey, you free tomorrow?" "Inori, depends." "What's up?" "Naruto, I was thinking before I head off to Japan, maybe we could hang out. You know, something casual." There was a brief pause, and Naruto tapped his fingers against his desk, waiting. "Inori, you mean like a date?" "Naruto, exactly like that." "Inori, bold, Uzumaki." "Alright, I'm in. Where are we going?" "Naruto, leave that to me. I'll pick you up at 6. Naruto grinned, setting his phone down. The Emperor wasn't one to back down from a challenge, and this felt like the start of something important. Naruto arrived at Inori's apartment building at exactly 6 p.m., dressed in a casual but stylish outfit, a black bomber jacket, dark jeans, and fresh sneakers. He wanted to keep things low-key. When Inori stepped out, Naruto felt his breath hitch for a moment. She wore a soft, pastel blouse tucked into high-waisted jeans, paired with simple sneakers. Her pink hair was tied back in a loose ponytail. "Hey," Naruto said, giving her a grin. "You look great." Inori smirked, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Not bad yourself." "So, where are we going?" "You'll see," Naruto replied. Naruto took Inori to a cozy Italian trattoria tucked away in a quiet part of town. The restaurant had a warm, inviting atmosphere, with checkered tablecloths and the smell of freshly baked bread filling the air. "This is nice," Inori said as they were seated. "Not exactly what I expected from someone who calls himself the Emperor." Naruto laughed, leaning back in his chair. "I've got layers, you know. Besides, I figured something chill would be better than a crowded place." As they ordered their food, the conversation flowed naturally. They talked about football, Inori's career as a reporter, and Naruto's upcoming journey with the national team. "So, the World Cup," Inori said, resting her chin on her hand. "That's huge. How are you feeling about it?" "Excited. Nervous. Ready, Naruto replied. It's a big step, but I've been working for this. I want to prove I belong on that stage. Inori nodded. You'll do more than prove it. You've got that spark, something special. It's why people can't stop talking about you. Naruto smirked. You included? Maybe, she said, her lips curving into a small smile. As the evening went on, the conversation turned more personal. Naruto leaned forward, his tone softening. You know, Inori, I don't just admire your work. I admire you. Inori blinked, her cheeks faintly coloring. Naruto. No, let me finish, he said, his eyes locked onto hers. You've been there, covering my journey, telling my story in a way no one else could. You've seen the highs and the lows, and through it all, you've treated me like more than just a player. That means a lot to me. For a moment, Inori was silent, her gaze searching his. Then she smiled. You're full of surprises, Naruto. Good ones, I hope, Naruto said, grinning. Inori chuckled. Yeah, good ones. After dinner, Naruto took Inori back to her apartment. They stood outside, the cool evening air wrapping around them. Thanks for tonight, Inori said, her voice soft. I had a great time. Me too, Naruto replied, his hands in his pockets. I know things are going to get busy, but maybe when I'm back, we can do this again? Inori nodded, her smile warm. I'd like that. Naruto hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward, leaning down slightly. Take care of yourself, Inori. And keep writing those stories. You take care of yourself too, Emperor, she said, her voice teasing but sincere. As Naruto walked away, he glanced over his shoulder, giving her a playful wink. Inori stood there, watching him go, a faint blush on her cheeks. Uber's training ground, last session before departure. The players gathered for one final squad match before Naruto departed for his Japan national team call-up. Despite being a friendly training session, the intensity in the air was unmistakable. Naruto Uzumaki vs Don Lorenzo. They had played on the same side before, but this time, they were on opposing teams, Naruto leading the attack, and Lorenzo as the defensive anchor. For both, this wasn't just practice. It was personal. Lorenzo, standing tall, grinned lazily as he cracked his neck. His golden teeth gleamed under the sunlight as he looked at Naruto across the pitch. You ready for this, Uzumaki? Lorenzo called out, his voice playful but laced with challenge. You're not leaving until I shut you down, okay? Naruto, already in position up front, grinned confidently. His pink boots dug into the grass as he rolled his shoulders. Shut me down? TCH. Naruto smirked, tilting his head. Lorenzo, you should know by now I never lose. The other players around them could feel the tension building. This wasn't just a training match anymore. This was a battle between the Emperor and the Ace Eater. The whistle blew, and the match kicked off with Naruto's team in possession. Lorenzo's team set up defensively, their eyes locked onto Naruto, knowing he was the biggest threat on the field. The ball was played into the midfield before a lofted pass was sent toward Naruto. The second he received the ball, his Emperor's eye activated. Everything slowed. He could see the defensive line, the way they were shifting, the slightest imbalance in their stance. And then, his eyes locked onto Lorenzo. Lorenzo, despite his relaxed demeanor, was already closing the distance, his Ace Eater instincts activating. He wasn't just reacting to Naruto. He was dictating Naruto's path. Naruto's smirk widened. Oh, this is gonna be fun. He feinted left, Lorenzo adjusted instantly. He dropped his shoulder, Lorenzo didn't bite, DMN he's good. But Naruto was better. Using his Emperor's eye, he saw the moment Lorenzo would overcommit, it was one fraction of a second. Naruto stopped on a dime, twisting his hips at an unnatural angle before exploding past Lorenzo with a burst of speed. But Lorenzo wasn't done. His ability to recover was elite. Even as Naruto surged forward, Lorenzo adjusted his footwork at the last possible second, twisting his body into an awkward but effective defensive stance. He reached out with his long legs, flicking the ball away with precision before Naruto could get his shot off. "Not so fast, Emperor," Lorenzo grinned. "I saw that one, okay?" Naruto stared at him, eyes burning. "He countered me?" For a second, a thrill shot through him. Lorenzo had finally seen the Emperor's eye in full force, and yet, he still found a way to fight back. Naruto wasn't done. Seconds later, his team recovered the ball. This time, there was no hesitation. The ball was played through, and Naruto spun on the spot, his back to goal as Lorenzo rushed in. His Emperor's eye activated once more, and he saw it the golden light. With zero hesitation, Naruto struck the ball with a perfect golden finesse shot, sending it curling around the defenders and into the top corner. Lorenzo watched the ball glide past the keeper's outstretched hands. Goal, 1-0. The other players erupted, cheering as Naruto jogged toward the corner flag as he kicked it over. Lorenzo, still standing at the edge of the box, grinned. He walked over, giving Naruto a slight nudge on the shoulder. All right, Emperor. That was a DMN good shot." Naruto turned, smirking. "You too, Ace Eater. You're the first to push me like that." Lorenzo laughed, holding out a fist. "Keep this up in Japan, okay? And when you come back, I'll be even better." Naruto bumped his fist against Lorenzo's. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As the match ended with Naruto's team winning 3-1, the players left the field. As Naruto looked back one last time, his time with Ubers had transformed him. He had sharpened his skills, refined his vision, and embraced his ego. Naruto stepped off the plane at airport. Camera flashes ignited the dimly lit arrivals terminal, reporters scrambling for position, their microphones extended like swords. In a battle for exclusivity, Naruto, dressed in a black tracksuit with Japan's emblem on the chest, adjusted his cap slightly, but there was no use in hiding, they were here for him. As he walked toward baggage claim, a wall of journalists surged forward, cameras rolling, voices overlapping in a flurry of excitement. "Uzumaki-san. How does it feel to be called up to the Japan senior national team at just 16? Your performance in the UEFA Youth League has been spectacular. Do you feel ready for the international stage? Were you surprised by the call-up? What do you think about the competition for a starting spot?" Naruto grinned, stopping momentarily. He raised a hand, signaling for silence, and just like that, the room hung onto his every word. "It feels great to be back." His voice was smooth, controlled, confident. "This is an opportunity I've been working toward my whole life, and now that I'm here, I plan on making the most of it. Being young doesn't mean anything to me, I'm here to win." The reporters scribbled furiously, the energy buzzing around them. But then, a question that caught Naruto off guard. "Uzumaki-san, you aren't the only young player called up. Itoshire Sae will be joining you in the squad, how do you feel about teaming up with him?" Naruto froze for a second. "Sae? Here?" He hadn't even checked the full squad list yet. He had been too focused on his own call-up, but now that the media had confirmed it. Naruto chuckled, his grin widening. "Didn't know he was gonna be here. But that's good, I already know what he can do. Sae's a great player, but let's be real, when we step on that pitch together, the world won't know what hit them." The media exploded with reactions at his bold statement, but Naruto wasn't just talking to talk. He meant every single word. If Sae was in the squad, then that meant Japan wasn't playing around. And neither was he. As Naruto grabbed his luggage, his phone buzzed. "Rio Mikage, bro, you've got the whole country watching. Good luck, you better start. Mikasa Ackerman, welcome back, Naruto." Naruto smirked at the texts, but before he could respond, a familiar voice called out from nearby. "Didn't think I'd see you here." Naruto turned and there he was. Itoshire Sae. Dressed in Japan's official navy blue travel gear, his magenta hair slightly tousled, Sae looked as indifferent as ever. His eyes, however, carried a sharpness that Naruto knew all too well. Naruto grinned, slinging his bag over his shoulder. Well, look who it is. Guess we're back on the same side. SAE shrugged. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm here to win. If you can keep up, fine. If not, stay out of my way. Naruto laughed, shaking his head. Oh, I'll keep up. Just don't slow me down, SAE. For a brief second, they locked eyes, and the tension crackled like lightning. For years, they had been rivals, clashing in different moments across their careers. But now, they would play together once more. And the world? The world wasn't ready for that. As Naruto and SAE walked toward the team transport, the cameras followed every step. The media coverage skyrocketed, their names flooding every news outlet in Japan. Naruto Uzumaki and Itoshire SAE, Japan's youngest duo ever in a World Cup squad. Tokyo Sports Daily. Can these two carry Japan to glory? SAE's vision and Uzumaki's finishing. A dream pairing? Blue Samurai Report. The future is now, Japan's golden generation begins with Uzumaki and Itoshire. ESPN Japan. Fans across the country exploded in excitement, debates raging online about whether Naruto and SAE would actually start together. Blue Samurai fan, if Japan plays both Uzumaki and Itoshire together, we might actually go deep in this World Cup. Uzumaki Nation, Naruto doesn't just make the squad he's about to take over. Watch. SAE Genius, SAE x Uzumaki? If they click again, they'll be unstoppable. The team bus pulled away from airport, carrying Japan's World Cup squad toward their training facility. Naruto sat by the window, his eyes scanning the Tokyo skyline as the city he once called home blurred past. Beside him, SAE sat, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. For the first few minutes, neither of them spoke. Two prodigies, both carrying Japan's future, both aware of what the other represented. Naruto finally broke the silence. You ever think this would happen? He asked, glancing at SAE. SAE scoffed lightly, not even turning his head. No, I didn't think Japan would call you up this soon. Naruto grinned, leaning back in his seat. Guess I proved them wrong. SAE finally turned to face him, his teal eyes sharp. It doesn't matter. A World Cup isn't some youth tournament. This is the highest level of football. You don't get points for potential here, you either win, or you don't belong. Naruto chuckled. DMN, SAE. You ever relax? SAE's gaze didn't waver. We're not here to relax. Naruto smirked, his emperor's eye flickering. So that's how it is? Fine, Naruto said, rolling his shoulders. Then we're winning. No other option. For the first time, SAE smirked back. Good answer. The bus pulled up to the Japan national team training facility, a state-of-the-art complex built to prepare the squad for the World Cup. As Naruto and SAE stepped off, cameras flashed, capturing every movement. The moment they walked through the facility gates, it became official. Japan's two youngest ever call-ups were here. Standing at the entrance, waiting to greet them, was the team's head coach, a respected tactician with years of international experience. You must be Uzumaki, the coach said, shaking Naruto's hand firmly. I've heard a lot about you. Good things, I hope, Naruto replied with a grin. The coach smirked. We'll find out soon enough. Behind them, veteran players from the national team were watching, whispering amongst themselves. So that's Uzumaki? The kid from Ubers? I heard he's got an insane shot. And that's SAE beside him, two teenagers in the squad? This is unheard of. Naruto felt their eyes on him, the curiosity, the doubt, the unspoken challenge. He loved it. Inside the main facility, the squad gathered for their first official team meeting. The coach stood at the front, his voice steady and commanding. We have two young players with us this time, he said. Uzumaki Naruto and Itoshire SAE. The room turned toward them. Some players nodded in approval, others remained unreadable. Most of you have played together before, the coach continued. But these two, they are here because they have the potential to change our future. That doesn't mean they'll be given anything for free. They will have to prove themselves. Naruto grinned, unfazed. Prove myself, he muttered under his breath. Easy. Sae didn't react, he already knew that was the expectation. The coach noticed their confidence, his lips curling slightly. We'll see how much you talk after training tomorrow. Naruto checked his phone later that night, scrolling through the endless posts. Inori saw the press. You looked good out there. Big stage suits you, Emperor. Naruto smiled, quickly typing back. Naruto, told you. Just getting started. You watching the first game? Inori, of course. Don't disappoint. Naruto, when have I ever? He set his phone down, his mind racing. Tomorrow, the first training session begins. The Japan national team was gathered, going through their warm-ups under the watchful eye of the coaching staff. The atmosphere should have been electric, filled with the energy of a squad preparing for the World Cup in just 2 weeks. Instead it felt hollow. Naruto glanced at Sae, who was standing a few meters away, his arms crossed, watching everything unfold with a visibly disgusted expression. Sae hated what he was seeing, and after a few minutes, Naruto half agreed. Japan was trash. As the team ran their first set of passing drills, Naruto quickly noticed a glaring problem. The midfielders were slow on the ball, hesitant in their decisions. The defenders lacked aggression, reacting a second too late in situations where top teams wouldn't even give them a chance. Even in small-sided possession drills, the lack of intensity was painfully obvious. Naruto and Sae exchanged a glance as a sloppy back pass forced the keeper into an unnecessary clearance. This is a World Cup squad? Naruto muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. Sae exhaled through his nose, his annoyance evident. This is a joke. Naruto looked at him. You serious? Sae scoffed, shaking his head. You think this team can compete with Spain? Argentina? Brazil? His voice was low, sharp. We're wasting our time here. Naruto didn't fully agree, but he couldn't deny what he was seeing. This squad? It wasn't ready for Europe's elite. And the worst part? The senior players acted like they didn't see the problem. To close the session, the team split into 2 squads for a training match. Naruto and Sae weren't in the starting lineup, they were placed with the substitutes, watching from the sidelines. The match started and in less than 10 minutes, Sae was seething. The team's lack of cohesion was on full display. Simple passes were being misplaced. Their attacks lacked creativity, relying on predictable wing play that wouldn't trouble any serious opponent. Sae clenched his jaw as Japan's starting forwards failed to finish 3 clear-cut chances. Naruto, standing next to him, let out a frustrated sigh. Bro, Naruto muttered. This is hard to watch. Sae's fists tightened. This isn't football. Their team had possession, but there was no purpose to it. It was just passing for the sake of passing, waiting for someone to do something. This won't work against teams that press aggressively, Naruto thought, we'll get destroyed. As if to prove his point, the first team finally scored on a deflected shot that barely trickled past the keeper. Sae ran a hand down his face. Naruto? He was getting angry. After the match ended, the coach called the team in for a debrief. Good work today, the coach said. We still have areas to improve, but we're looking sharp heading into the tournament. Naruto almost laughed out loud. Sae didn't hold back. That was embarrassing. As the entire squad turned toward him, Sae stood with his arms crossed, his voice sharp and cold. If this is what we're taking to Russia, we might as well pack our bags now. A few of the senior players frowned. One of the midfielders, Takeda, spoke up. Watch your mouth, Itoshi. You think just because you're playing in Spain, you can disrespect us? SAE's teal eyes flashed dangerously. It's not about respect. It's about winning, and right now, we're not even close. A tense silence filled the air. As Naruto watched, arms folded, he agreed with SAE. But he knew this wasn't the way to get through to these guys. Before things could escalate further, the coach intervened. Enough, he said. Itoshi, I understand your concerns, but we are a team. And as a team, we work together to improve. We don't tear each other down. SAE clicked his tongue, turning away. Whatever. As the players dispersed, Naruto walked beside SAE toward the locker room. You didn't hold back, huh? Naruto said. SAE scoffed. Why should I? They need to wake up. Naruto exhaled. Yeah, but calling them trash to their face isn't gonna fix anything. SAE glanced at him. And what do you suggest? Naruto thought for a second. We show them. SAE raised an eyebrow. How? Naruto grinned. By being so much better than them, they have no choice but to follow. SAE actually paused, considering Naruto's words. After a moment, he smirked. You're insane. Naruto grinned back. Nah, I just don't want to lose. As Naruto walked into the locker room, he checked his phone. Inori saw some clips from training. Looks rough. How bad is it? Naruto chuckled, shaking his head as he typed back. Naruto, worse than you think. Inori, that bad? Naruto, we're gonna need a miracle in Russia. Inori, or an emperor. Naruto smirked, same thing really. 2 weeks later, Russia. The cooler air bit at Naruto's skin as he stepped off the plane alongside the Japan national team. The temperature was a sharp contrast to that of Tokyo, but Naruto hardly noticed. What he did notice was the hundreds of reporters and cameras waiting at the airport, capturing Japan's arrival for the World Cup. Naruto and SAE, the two youngest players on the squad, walked together toward the team bus. The entire country was watching them. But despite their growing status, they weren't in the starting lineup. And that pissed Naruto off. After arriving at their luxury team hotel, the players settled into their rooms. The media had been relentless with interviews, but Naruto ignored all of it. Later that evening, Naruto found himself sitting in the hotel lounge, his phone in hand, scrolling through match predictions. Spain and Germany were clear favorites to advance from Group E. Costa Rica was the dark horse. Japan? Most analysts had already counted them out. TCH, Naruto muttered under his breath. No faith at all. You look frustrated, a voice said beside him. Naruto turned to see Inori, dressed in a simple black sweater and jeans, her pinkish hair tucked behind her ears. She had a press pass hanging from her neck, marking her as part of the media contingent following Japan. He smirked. Didn't expect to see you here. Inori slid into the chair opposite him, resting her arms on the table. Why wouldn't I be? I told you I'd be covering your journey. Naruto raised an eyebrow. So, you're supporting Japan now? Inori hesitated for a moment before nodding. My mother is Japanese. My father is Italian. I grew up in both cultures, but I've always felt connected to Japan. Naruto leaned back, taking that in. Huh. That makes sense now. You've got that mix of passion and discipline. Inori smirked. I'll take that as a compliment. You should, Naruto said, his expression shifting to something more serious. But I gotta be honest, Inori, I don't like this at all. What? She asked, tilting her head. Naruto tapped the team sheet on his phone, showing her Japan's starting lineup for the first match. Me and SAE aren't starting. Inori's brows furrowed. They're benching both of you? Yeah, Naruto muttered. Coach says it's disrespectful to the senior players if two teenagers take their spots right away. And that we lack experience at this level. Inori exhaled slowly. That's frustrating. Naruto's grip tightened around his phone. It's stupid. Japan's in Group E, FING Germany and Spain are in our group. This is a group of death. If we don't start with our best players, we'll get destroyed. Naruto hated to admit it, but Japan's group was a nightmare. Group E. Spain, one of the strongest passing teams in the world. Germany, powerhouse team, known for their efficiency. Costa Rica, a defensive team that could frustrate opponents. Japan, underdogs and playing without their best talents. Japan's first match was against Germany. The same Germany that had won the World Cup just 4 years ago. Naruto clenched his jaw. They expect to beat Germany without me and SAE? Inori studied Naruto's expression. He was furious. And honestly, she understood why. The way he and SAE had trained, the way they had completely outclassed the squad during practice, it was obvious that Japan needed them to stand a chance. But the coach was holding on to pride. Traditional football culture in Japan still respected seniority over talent. And that was a mistake. Maybe the coach will change his mind, Inori offered. If things don't go well in the first match. Naruto snorted. You mean if we get embarrassed? Inori hesitated, then shrugged. Maybe that's what it'll take. Naruto smirked, shaking his head. You're ruthless. You'd expect anything less, she teased. Naruto chuckled. Fair point. Naruto knew one thing for certain: if Japan was serious about winning, they couldn't afford to waste time on traditions and seniority. But if the coach needed to see the team struggle first before he understood that? Fine. He would be waiting for his chance. And when that chance came, the whole world would know the name Naruto Uzumaki. The Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow was packed with over 80,000 fans, the air thick with anticipation. The FIFA World Cup was in full swing, and Japan's first match against Germany was about to kick off. But for Naruto and SAE, they weren't on the field, they were on the bench. Dressed in their navy blue warm-up jackets, they sat near the coaching staff, watching as the starting lineup took their positions. Naruto leaned forward, eyes locked on the pitch, while SAE sat with his arms crossed, his expression dark. They had trained for this. They had prepared for this. Yet Japan's best players were sitting on the sidelines, forced to watch as their team faced one of the most efficient and ruthless squads in world football. Germany, dressed in their iconic white and black kits, pressed high from the start, suffocating Japan's midfield. The difference in quality and intensity was immediately clear. Japan's midfield struggled to keep possession, their passes slow and predictable. The forwards were isolated, unable to link up in dangerous areas. Naruto's emperor's eye flickered as he studied Germany's movements. They're closing passing lanes before we even think about passing. Germany's tactical discipline was on another level. Within 15 minutes, the inevitable happened. A cutting-through ball from Germany's midfield split Japan's defense wide open. Their striker sprinted past Japan's center-backs like they weren't even there. With one smooth touch, he slotted the ball past the goalkeeper. 1-0, Germany. The Japanese players looked stunned. On the bench, SAE exhaled sharply, shaking his head. They don't belong here, SAE muttered. Naruto didn't disagree. The game didn't improve. Japan couldn't get past the halfway line, pinned back by Germany's relentless pressing. The second goal came before halftime, a perfect volley from their winger, capitalizing on yet another defensive mistake. 2-0, Germany. Naruto leaned back, running a hand through his hair. This is hard to watch, he muttered. SAE's jaw tightened. They're pathetic. By the 65th minute, it was 3-0. By the 80th minute, it was 4-0. As the final minutes ticked down, Naruto stood up, walking towards the coach. The Japanese manager watched the game unfold with stoic indifference. Naruto walked up beside him, his voice calm but sharp. If you want any sense of achievement in this World Cup, you need to use me and SAE. The coach didn't even glance at him. That's my decision to make, Uzumaki. Naruto narrowed his eyes, his voice lowering. And you think this is the best decision? He gestured toward the pitch, where Germany was passing circles around Japan. The coach finally turned to Naruto, his expression firm. I pick who plays and who doesn't. Naruto held his glare for a few seconds before scoffing, shaking his head. Then you're picking failure. Without another word, he walked back to the bench, dropping into his seat beside SAE. SAE glanced at him. Didn't work, did it? Naruto sighed, crossing his arms. Nope. SAE exhaled, looking ahead. Doesn't matter, we play Spain next. Naruto raised an eyebrow. And? SAE finally turned to him, his eyes sharp. They have Leonardo Luna. Naruto's interest peaked immediately. How good is he? Naruto asked, his tone suddenly serious. SAE's expression didn't change. The best striker I've seen with my own eyes so far. Naruto's grin slowly spread across his face. Good. SAE frowned. Good? Naruto stretched his legs out, looking at the stadium lights overhead. I was planning on taking the #1 spot at Real eventually. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. So why not start now? SAE turned fully to him, his eyes wide. You're insane. Naruto smirked. No, I'm not. I have dreams, and right now? Luna is standing in my way. The stadium lights dimmed as the final whistle blew. Germany 4-0 Japan. A complete humiliation. The Japanese players walked off the pitch, heads down, while the German squad casually exchanged handshakes like it was a normal day at work. On the bench, Naruto and SAE sat still. Their eyes locked. We play next match, Naruto said firmly. SAE nodded once. Even if it's from the bench. Naruto leaned back, cracking his knuckles. And when we do? Make sure your passes reach me. SAE smirked slightly. My passes never fail. As Naruto stood, walking toward the tunnel, his left eye gleamed a light blue slit pupil surrounded by a blue ring. The world had ignored him. The coach had benched him. But that was fine. Because now? Now, he was ready to show the world why they call him the Emperor. The mood at Japan's training camp was tense. A 4-0 humiliation against Germany had shattered any illusion of Japan being able to compete with the best. The media back home was ruthless, fans were calling for changes, and even within the team, doubts had started creeping in. But two players weren't shaken. Uzumaki Naruto and Itoshire SAE. The next morning, training was different. Not because of tactics. Not because of adjustments. But because Naruto and SAE were finally allowed to show why they were here. Standing in the middle of the training pitch, Naruto jumped up and down, side to side. His boots fresh from the equipment room, completely clean, ready for him to shine. Beside him, SAE, arms crossed, his eyes sharp, exuded an unbothered aura, but Naruto could tell, he was pissed. For 2 weeks, they had sat on the sidelines, watched Japan crumble, and now it was their time to take over. Japan's head coach stood in front of the squad, his face unreadable. After reviewing our last game, he started, his tone steady but laced with frustration, we've decided to make some changes. Murmurs spread through the squad. The coach's eyes landed on Naruto and SAE. They knew. They knew they couldn't deny it anymore. Naruto and SAE were too good to stay benched forever. Some of the older players still looked reluctant, but others. They were beginning to understand. The moment training started, it was like a switch flipped. Naruto and SAE moved differently. Their intensity, their chemistry, it was obvious. Naruto dropped deep, collecting a pass from one of the defenders before immediately laying it off to SAE. SAE took one touch and, without looking, played a perfectly weighted ball over the defense, dropping it into the exact space Naruto was sprinting into. Naruto didn't even break stride. With one smooth flick, he chipped the ball over the goalkeeper. Goal! As the silence followed. Some of the senior players watching from the Side exchanged glances. Alright, the assistant coach called out. SAE and Naruto versus the starting defense. Let's go. The defenders were Japan's best, but Naruto wasn't worried. As the ball was played into Naruto's feet, his Emperor's Eye activated. He saw everything. The defender in front of him was shifting his weight slightly to his right. He's expecting me to cut inside. So Naruto didn't. With zero hesitation, he faked the inside cut before rolling the ball backward and flicking it over the defender's foot. He was through. The goalkeeper rushed out. Naruto barely glanced at the goal before curling his signature golden finesse shot into the far post. Goal! From the sidelines, Inori stood with a few other reporters, her eyes focused on one player only. Naruto, the Emperor Uzumaki. She lifted her camera, capturing the way he moved, the way he dominated the session like he had been born to play at this level. Beside her, another journalist spoke. I can't believe they didn't start him against Germany. They won't make that mistake again, Inori said confidently. As Naruto celebrated his latest goal, he turned his head slightly toward the media section. For one brief second, his blue eyes locked with Inori's, as he winked at her. Exactly how he did on their first date. Inori's cheeks burned slightly before she quickly turned back to her notes. BSTRD, she muttered under her breath. But she didn't stop smiling. By the end of training, there was no more debate. The senior players who had once doubted Naruto and SAE had seen it for themselves. Now it was time for the match. The Krestovsky Stadium in St. Petersburg, Russia, was alive with energy. Japan versus Spain. The second match of the World Cup group stage. Over 65,000 fans filled the stands, their chants echoing through the night air. The Japanese supporters, though smaller in number compared to Spain's, waved their white flags proudly, hopeful that their team could somehow turn things around after the humiliation against Germany. But in the VIP boxes, in media rooms across the world, and in living rooms back home in Japan, doubt loomed like a storm cloud. The starting whistle hadn't even blown yet, but most people already knew how this was going to go. And yet, there was one person in Japan's squad who didn't see it that way. As the players lined up in the tunnel, the broadcast analysts in the commentary booth spoke with deep curiosity. John Parker, well, here we are. Japan versus Spain. After Japan's brutal 4-0 loss to Germany, their World Cup hopes are hanging by a thread. And they have to face Spain next? That's just cruel. Goro Takemura, Spain is one of the tournament favorites. Their squad is stacked with generational talent. And one name in particular stands out tonight: Leonardo Luna, the scion of Real. A screen showed Luna warming up, his blonde hair with short sides but long top hair and bangs that swiped to the left side of his face, his green eyes locked in complete focus. His tall frame moved smoothly as he stretched, his number 9 jersey fitting him like a royal cloak. John Parker, Luna has been hailed as the next great striker of Spain, already making waves at Real Madrid. He is the ultimate finisher, a complete striker. He will be Japan's worst nightmare. The broadcast then showed Japan's starting lineup. Goro Takemura, and here's where things get interesting. Despite the obvious struggles, Japan's coach has decided to stick with the same starting 11 that lost to Germany. But there's one key difference: look at the bench. The camera panned toward the Japan bench, where two figures sat side by side, arms folded, staring at the field. John Parker, yes. Naruto Uzumaki and Itoshiro Sae. Japan's two teenage prodigies both benched again. But this time, will they be coming on in the second half? The camera zoomed in on Naruto for a moment. Even from the bench, his presence was unmistakable. His legs were slightly spread apart, his hands clasped together in his lap, his blue eyes sharp, locked onto one person. Leonardo Luna. Back in Japan, in the Uzumaki household. Minato and Kushina sat on the couch, the game playing on their large TV screen. Kushina, arms crossed, tapped her fingers against her forearm impatiently. I still don't get why he isn't starting. Minato sighed, rubbing his chin. It's tradition. The coach is respecting the senior players. Respect? Kushina scoffed. Does respect win you games? Their house was filled with energy, as even Naruto's family workers gathered in the background, all watching with nervous anticipation. A small worker, an older man, shook his head. The coach better not mess this up. I saw the news Spain's Luna is dangerous. If Japan goes down too early, Naruto might not even have a chance to change the game. Minato exhaled slowly. That's the risk. Kushina's eyes softened slightly, looking at her son on the TV screen. Even from the bench, Naruto looked like a king. High above the field, in the press box, Inori sat with her notepad, watching everything unfold. Her pen tapped against the paper, but she hadn't written anything yet. Her eyes were locked on Naruto. Despite everything being benched, being underestimated, he looked completely in control. He wasn't frustrated. He wasn't pouting. No. He was waiting. And the moment he stepped onto that pitch, Inori knew something was going to happen. She lifted her camera, snapped a quick photo, and scribbled in her notes. The Emperor does not rush. He only waits for his moment to rule. Naruto ignored everything around him. The noise. The analysis. The doubts. All he cared about was the man standing on the pitch, Leonardo Luna. Luna felt the weight of Naruto's gaze, and after a few seconds, his green eyes shifted slightly, meeting Naruto's across the field. The two locked eyes. A silent challenge. Luna's lips curved into a slight, unreadable smirk. Naruto? He didn't smirk back. He simply grinned. Beside him, Sae exhaled sharply, muttering, "We better not be losing by too much before halftime." Naruto smirked. "What, you think Japan can hold out?" Sae's eyes narrowed. "I doubt it. Luna will destroy them." Naruto leaned back. "Let's see how it all plays out." The referee blew the whistle, and the ball rolled forward. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author SpellRGN on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.